Ready. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the County Council meeting. Today is May 14th. Before we start our agenda, as we do on the first council meeting of every month, we have one of our community leaders come up, give us some words of wisdom. And today I'm actually very happy to have, I'm not going to try to pronounce his full name. We know him as Lieutenant Nalo. Lieutenant, can you come up from the Salvation Army, please? And you can say your full name once you get to the mic.
Sounds good.
And you got to push the little button on the, there you go.
All right. Good morning. My full name is Lieutenant Fa'oloviti Fasavalu.
Now you know why I said Lieutenant Nalo?
Lieutenant Nalo is easy. But I would like to invite everyone, if you're willing, if you could join me in a prayer.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Jesus, for this beautiful day. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful council members. Lord, we pray that you reside over the meeting today. We pray that you be with the tough decisions that they're going to make. Father, we pray for the community, the surrounding areas in greater Kauai. We thank you for your blessings. Lord, I pray that you continue to bless the beautiful council members. We pray that you continue to bless the beautiful Kauai. And we pray that you continue to bless the people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Lieutenant. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bolosan.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallo.
Here.
Councilmember Cowden.
Here.
Councilmember Holland.
Present.
Councilmember Kaneshiro.
Present.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Present.
Council Chair Opozo.
Here.
All present.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Cavallo, seconded by Mr. Kaua'i. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
Our next item on page 2 are the minutes of the following meetings of the Council: the April 9th, 2025 Council meeting, the April 23rd, 2025 Council meeting, and the April 23rd public hearing regarding Bill number 2951.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
Next item is an interview for the Building Board of Appeals for Jason Ornelas, Fire Safety, for a term ending 12/31/25.
With that, I'll suspend the rules. Mr. Ornelas. You know, normally for our interviews, the gallery is empty, but look at how many people came for your interview today.
Oh, don't forget to press the button.
Good morning. Anella Davis, Office of Boards and Commissions.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to introduce Jason Ornelas. Jason was born in Whittier, California, and raised on Kauai. He attended Wilcox Elementary and graduated Kaua'i High School. Directly out of high school, Jason joined the Air Force and was initially stationed at Beale Air Force Base in Yuba County, California, followed by a posting to Berlin, Germany. On June 12, 1987, when President Ronald Reagan delivered the iconic line, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down the wall," at the Brandenburg Gate in West Berlin, which led to the reunification of Germany, Jason was a witness to history, standing in the third row with his Air Force squadron. In 1988, Jason was honorably discharged, returned to Kauai, and immediately joined the fire department, where he served for the next 33 years. In 2022, he retired as battalion chief. In his retirement, Jason enjoys fishing, fixing cars, cooking, and traveling with his wife, Marianne. Last year, they did a tour of the southern states, and in July, they plan to go to England, Scotland, France, and Belgium. With all of his technical and professional knowledge, I am so grateful that Jason is willing to serve on the Building Board of Appeals.
Thank you. Jason, thank you for agreeing to serve. Any comments? That's impressive. Yeah, that bio was impressive. I've known you pretty much all our lives and did not know that about you. But Any? One more time.
I'm honored to serve. Yeah. As a life of service, high school, military, fire department. That's why I never had long hair, so I've been kind of growing it out since. I retired. So I'm glad for the opportunity and looking forward to serving the community in any capacity.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ornelas, Councilmember Kaua'i?
First of all, thank you for being willing to do this. And when I look, like the Building Board of Appeals, that's not the normal board of review for real estate. Building Board of Appeals is for when people don't get the permits that they want. So I would think with 33 years with Kauai Fire Department, it would give you some background in certainly knowing the island well, and certainly knowing what's a good structure and what's not a good structure. Can you help us know, like a lot of people have all different kinds of skills. Have you done building, or what's your background with construction or things that would relate to that? Don't forget to push your button, and then you push it and let go. And let go, yeah.
Well, as you know, firemen, we have a very flexible schedule, and most of us all have had side jobs and have done, after Nika, I've done carpentry, roofing. I did electrical with retired Chief Ernie Moniz for a lot of years. I did rain gutters. So I have, and I also have friends still in the fire department who I could ask for advice regarding some of the questions if there is permitting issues.
Okay, that's helpful for me because understanding construction and building is a really important part of this job. I wouldn't put me on the board because I don't do that, so thank you.
Any other questions? Just for the members of the public, the Building Board of Appeals, which was sitting vacant for quite a while, so I want to thank boards and commissions for aggressively trying to get that filled. So technology changes much quicker than our code changes. And the building code is so strict, and there's many opportunities with new technology to do things cheaper and faster, but it's not complying with the code, the building code. So that's why we pushed for this commission to be filled, because contractors may have a better way to do things that have evolved since the passage of the code. So this commission right here, this board, gets to review these new technologies or new processes that can be used and make a determination whether or not that can be used in place of the code. So it is vital, it is important, and again, I urge the boards and commissions to get this filled as soon as can, because we're all looking at how we can reduce the cost of building, construction, housing, and this board can actually do that. So, and your expertise in the fire side is, because the fire department code, the fire components of that code can be difficult. So, thank you. Anything else? Mr. Kaua'i?
Thank you, brother, for stepping to the plate. And of course, your ohana and all of your experience, and now you're on the Board of Appeals. So this is a great opportunity to really bring it to the table. And again, I know you a long time, and once you say you're going to do something, you move forward, and I really appreciate you for that. So all of us stepping up a lot.
And in the Air Force, they called it 3510. The boards and commissions, they actually have the Reg 3510, which requires your hair to be cut. So. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's it. You can leave.
All right, have a nice day.
All right, guys. We'll vote on the resolution at the next council meeting.
Yes. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Next item, please.
Chair, next item is an item on the consent calendar for receipt, C2025-105.
Move to receive.
Any discussion of public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-106, communication from Jody Higuchi Saigusa, Clerk of the Public Access, Open Space, Natural Resources Preservation Fund Commission, transmitting for council consideration a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Article 14, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the Public Access, Open Space, Natural Resources Preservation Fund to implement the approved charter amendment to allow up to 5% of the Public Access Open Space Natural Resources Preservation Fund to be used for the maintenance of entitlements acquired by the fund.
Move to receive.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? The bill will be coming up later, but if anyone in the audience wishes to testify at this time, I'll take that testimony now. Seeing none, Motion is to receive. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
On page 3, C2025-107, communication from Assistant Chief of Police Elliot K. requesting council approval to accept a donation from the State of Hawaii Department of Law Enforcement of 2 day box metal storage magazines designed to safely and securely store explosives valued at $4,247.06, which will be used to store fireworks recovered during an investigation that are pending disposal, and will provide a containment option for short-term storage of pyrotechnics that is fire, weather, and theft resistant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony?
Just slight discussion.
Yeah?
I don't need to
Hang
bring
on.
him up.
Is there any, no public testimony? Okay. Okay. With that, I'll suspend the rules. Lonnie?
For the record, Lonnie Sykos. The question I'd like to have answered by the chief when he comes up is the size of these boxes, and given the volume involved when you seize fireworks, they're imported by the pallet, and a 40-foot container holds 40 pallets, I believe. And so given that they might seize a large volume of fireworks, will this be sufficient for that, or do we need to provide them with more facility? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, well, the rules are suspended. If we can have someone from KPD for the site. The memo says a day box. I'm assuming the day box is not very big, but if you could just, yeah.
For the record, Darren Rose, Captain with the Kauai Police Department. The day box is like the size of this podium right here, or a mailbox that we commonly see on the streets. And the intent is if officers do seize fireworks, smaller size, obviously not ones being imported through harbors, is to have a safe place to put it. Currently, right now, we have to bring it into our evidence facility, which obviously it's a fire hazard and causes a whole lot of issues.
So I have a little follow-up
Go
on
ahead.
that. So thank you for that clarification, and I appreciate the question coming from the audience. So this helps protect the officer right then. Now, some of these places are, you know, maybe hold a lot, like the problem that we saw on Oahu. They had a lot of fireworks there. Is it something that we're thinking towards, like if we need a bigger storage container? Or like if there's a way for the council to help with that?
I think if we did seize a large amount, then we would have to see, you know, we do have containers on property. If we can put it inside one of those, a larger one, we'd have to. I know in the past we had one, 2 large pallets years ago, and we had to put it in our regular large evidence warehouse, which obviously was a fire hazard. So
Yeah. Maybe check into that and send us something back, so if we know that we need to help with a better storage unit, that we have that awareness, so we can, you know, help.
okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll call a meeting back to order. Any further discussion?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm just appreciating that we are making more of an effort, and there's a prospect of moving forward in terms of protecting our island after we had, you know, really bad experience last year on Oahu. And so we're moving towards taking a little bit more action. We've had a number of holidays where the community's really reached out, and so I just want to honor the police department for moving in that direction.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-108, communication from Assistant Chief of Police Elliot K. requesting council approval to accept and expend recurring federal funds in the amount of $42,647 from the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant to be used for the purpose of drug-related investigations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, with that, I'll suspend the rules. If we can get someone from KPD. Councilman Kaua'i.
Morning, everybody. For the record, Lieutenant Christian Jenkins, Kauai Police Department, Vice Narcotics Commander.
Thank you, Lieutenant Jenkins, for the work that you do. I know this grant is just a modest amount, $42,647, but can you just take this moment to give us an update on how the drug-related investigations are progressing, if we've seen any growth one year to the next, in terms of our effectiveness?
Sure. We've seen a substantial growth in the amount of seizures that we've seized in 2024, and in regards to the 2023 seizures that we received. I think so far for 2024, our seizures were up approximately 155% in drugs seized, and we were up about 60% in targeting drug trafficking organizations. And what a drug trafficking organization is, it's not your regular mom and pop that's selling out of their house. We're trying to go up to the ladder to get to the main traffickers. So we were able to disrupt several drug trafficking organizations within the island of Kauai and the state, which was a huge increase from the previous year.
And just to help me understand, what kind of volumes are you talking about?
For 2024, for example, we had a rather large seizure for methamphetamine. For a community as small as we are, it doesn't take a lot to make a huge dent, but our narcotics unit, just our narcotics unit alone, we seized approximately 20 pounds of methamphetamine for the year 2024. That is a lot for this particular island. Without the exact totals in front of me, we also seized probably a pound of fentanyl, a pound of cocaine, and not really a half pound of heroin. Heroin's kind of on the decline, but large amounts were seized in 2024.
Okay, and how about our vice investigators? Are we training any new ones?
Yes, we are. With this grant, we're able to send our vice investigators to trainings on island, off island, and around the country to keep their skills up to date. We have these drug traffickers. They're getting smarter by the day, and we need to get smarter with them to effectively investigate and apprehend them.
Okay, well, I just want to thank you. These drugs aren't, pot. These can be very devastating drugs in our community, so it seems to me the $46,000 is money well spent and received. I appreciate the good job that you're doing, and we encourage, all that we can do to help you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Holland?
No questions. I just want to echo that gratitude. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I have one more question.
Yes.
How about the dogs? Because I get to learn a lot about the police department. Are your canines working on this?
Yes, our canines are a great. I consider them police officers themselves. So our canines for 2024, I believe they were deployed 80 different times to locations. So they'll alert on a vehicle, a house, a person, and I think their alerts led to probably 5 pounds of methamphetamine, $12,000 in currency, fentanyl, and other drugs. So they are a huge portion of what we do in the police department. We use them every day. We have 2 canines. Our canine handlers go through rigorous training and consistent training, and some of this money will be towards training them as well. So we're extremely happy with what our canines do, and they do a great job for the community.
Okay, well, gratitude for that. And we have had even an Officer of the Month was a canine.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just a follow-up on that. I remember
Sure.
a couple of years ago, I've been on the fentanyl task force for the last year or so, working with community, and one of the conversations was that the dogs were not able to be trained for fentanyl because it was so toxic for them to smell. Is that changed?
They can alert to fentanyl, so I won't get into what everything our dogs can alert on, but yes, they can alert on
That's
fentanyl.
awesome news. Thank
Yes.
you.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you very much.
Anybody in the audience wishing to testify? Mr. Hart?
For the record, Bruce Hart.
A lot of my questions were answered by the questions that Councilmember Cowden, thank you, put to Officer Lieutenant Jenkins. I'd like to echo that it appears to me from what Lieutenant Jenkins was saying that they are doing a very good job. And I had a question from a different perspective, and I would like some clarification on how this division of the Kauai Police Department considers these grants. I think the council is aware that recently the Department of Justice is calling into question a lot of these JAG grants. In fact, at one council meeting just recently, if you'll remember, one of the grants for the Victim Witness Program was suddenly removed. I'd also like to take the opportunity at this moment to point out, as the council knows, but members of the public don't really make the connection, that we have two agencies that effectively deal with the crime in our community. One is KPD, the other is the Office of Prosecuting Attorney. Both of them receive these type of grants. And in the future, I would enjoy hearing how effective the OPA considers these grants, because the scuttle is they are going to be called into question by our new Attorney General. And so I think it's a good thing anyhow that all of us become educated as to these grants. They affect law enforcement. I'd also like to take an opportunity in the vein of thanking KPD that Officer Captain Rose, who is in the room at this time and gave testimony, he is a captain within the division of detectives that deals with this type of law enforcement. And I'd like to thank him also. And so, having said those things, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Seeing none, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carried. I apologize. I got to take a recess here. I completely forgot that we have two public hearings that we got to get through that I should have called at 8:30. So with that, this meeting is in recess, and we have two public hearings. Madam Clerk, can you read the notices, please?
Notice is hereby given that the Kauai County Council will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 14th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. or soon thereafter in the Council Chambers, 4396 Rice Street in the Historic County Building in Lihue on Bill Number 2952, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 16, Article 10, and Chapter 17, Article 2, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the use of public electric vehicle chargers. This bill proposes to implement user fees, timing restrictions, and other parameters for public use of electric vehicle charging stations operated by the County of Kauai to ensure adequate investment in the county electric vehicle charging network by authorizing the county to recover the costs of operating and maintaining its charging stations and equipment. And Bill Number 2953, a bill for an ordinance to amend Ordinance Number B2024-896 as amended, relating to the operating budget of the County of Kauai, State of Hawaii for the fiscal year July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, by revising the amounts estimated in the general fund. This bill proposes to amend Ordinance Number B2024-896 as amended, relating to the operating budget of the County of Kauai, State of Hawaii for the fiscal year July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, by revising the amounts estimated in the general fund. The purpose of this bill is to fund the settlement agreement with the State of Hawaii Organization of Police Officers, Bargaining Unit 12 for temporary hazard pay for exposure to the coronavirus disease 2019 for those bargaining unit members employed during the period of March 4th, 2020 to March 25th, 2022, including portions thereof, and to resolve the THP class grievance submitted by Shopo.
Thank you. Do we have anyone registered for remote testimony?
No registered speakers.
And no registered speakers. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on either Bill 2952 or 2953? Seeing none, these public hearings are now closed. I apologize again. I should have took that up at 8:30. With that, I'll call the meeting back to order. Next item, please.
Next item is C2025-109, communication from Director of Finance requesting council approval to accept terms contained in the Rocket Software End User License Agreement, which provides the attachment Extra Extreme Software Program for county users to securely connect to the State of Hawaii Motor Vehicle Registration Mainframe System.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-110, communication from the Director of Human Resources, transmitting for council consideration the cost items for the United Public Workers Bargaining Unit 1 for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2029, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 89-11 and Kauai County Charter Section 19.13b. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement were recently ratified by the employees of Bargaining Unit 1.
Move to receive.
Again, the bill will be coming up later, but I'll take any testimony on this bill up front if you want to do it now. Seeing none, the motion is to receive. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-111, communication from the Director of Human Resources, transmitting for council consideration the cost items for the Hawaii Government Employees Association Bargaining Unit 2 for the period July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2029, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Sections 89-11 and Kauai County Charter Section 1913.b. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement were recently ratified by employees of Bargaining Unit 2.
Move to receive.
Thank you. Again, the bill will come up later. Anybody wishing to testify now? Seeing none, the motion is to receive. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
On page 4, C2025-112, communication from the Director of Human Resources, transmitting for council consideration the cost items for the Hawaii Government Employees Association Bargaining Unit 3 for the period July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2029, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 89-11 and Kauai County Charter Section 1913.b. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement were recently ratified by the employees of Bargaining Unit 3.
Move to receive.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-113, communication from the Director of Human Resources, transmitting for council consideration the cost items for the Hawaii Government Employees Association Bargaining Unit 4 for the period July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2029, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Sections 89-11 and Kauai County Charter Section 1913.b. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement were recently ratified by the employees of Bargaining Unit 4.
Move to receive.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-114, communication from the Director of Human Resources, transmitting for council consideration the cost items for the Hawaii Government Employees Association Bargaining Unit 13 for the period July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2029, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Sections 89-11 and Kauai County Charter Sections 1913.b. The terms of the collective bargaining agreement were recently ratified by the employees of Bargaining Unit 13.
Move to receive.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
C2025-115, communication from the Mayor submitting his supplemental budget communication for fiscal year 2025 to 2026 and proposed amendments to the budget bills pursuant to Section 19.02A of the Kauai County Charter.
Move to schedule a public hearing on May 21st and then refer to the May 28th council meeting.
Second.
Any discussion or public testimony? Again, that will be the final public hearing on our annual budget, May 21st. So if you guys are interested, put that in your calendars. Anybody in the audience wishing to testify? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
Sure. Next item are claims. C2025-116, communication from the county clerk transmitting a claim filed against the County of Kauai by Lindsay Matthews for vehicle damage pursuant to Section 23.06 Charter of the County of Kauai. And C2025-117, communication from the county clerk transmitting a claim filed against the County of Kauai by State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company for Melissa Ann Marie Patton for vehicle damage pursuant to Section 23.06 Charter of the County of Kauai.
Move to refer to the county attorney for disposition and report back as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, please.
On page 5, committee report from your Committee on Planning, CRPL 2025-07.
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item, please.
Next item is a bill for first reading, proposed draft bill number 2954, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Article 14, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the Public Access Open Space Natural Resources Preservation Fund.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Planning Committee.
Second.
Any discussion,
I just have a comment.
comment or a question?
I have a
Just a
comment.
comment? Okay, anybody in the audience wishing to testify? Ms. Parker, I will suspend the rules.
Nice to see you.
You see that nice big TV we got for you?
Alice Parker for the record. Good to be back. Good to see you all. You're doing a great job. Okay, as far as, I thought this was a public hearing on public parks, but I'll go on anyway, okay? I feel commercial activity in parks is non-acceptable. This activity would be better cited on commercial property, such as empty shops in Kaua'i Grove. Perhaps they could, a form of cooperative could be made, and each individual member would be apportioned according to the space they need for the activity. The cost of doing business can then be deducted from their gross income, bringing down their taxable income. This area has, the commercial area has ample parking, protection from unwelcome weather, and convenient businesses nearby, as well as a guaranteed security. And our parks would lose no space for athletic and outdoor relaxation for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to testify on the 5% bill? If not, I'll call a meeting back to order. Any further discussion? Councilmember Kaua'i.
I just want to acknowledge and thank Human Resources and our collective bargaining agreement group that has worked with the state. And, you know, I had passed around this questions that I have asked.
This is on the preservation, the Open Space Commission bill.
Oh, I thought we were on first read of
Yeah, we are. We're on first reading for 2954, which is the Open Space Fund.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay.
We had two off communications.
In a hurry, I understand. Any other comments? If not, the motion is to approve. Roll call.
Councilmember Bolasan. Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaneshiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Raposo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is proposed draft bill number 2955, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 1 between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2029.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anybody in the audience wishing to testify? Seeing none, call him. Ms. Cowden now is you.
Okay, I just wanted to thank our bargaining units, our Human Resources Department, and I asked some questions ahead of the meeting that I won't go through the details because the audience here doesn't need to know all the little bits of which is in each of these bargaining units. But I appreciate that it looks like there's thoughtfully been bargained. They're not all the same amount. And that I'm happy too that we are continuing to support our different groups. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different bargaining units. And that we're helping to make sure that they are well compensated or better compensated than, each year we bring it up. So I just thank you for giving me the detailed answer so I don't need to bring you up and take everybody's time for those answers.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Roll call.
Councilmember Bolasan.
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaneshiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Raposo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Proposed draft bill number 2956, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 2 between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2029.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Second. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bolosan. Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kanashiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Opozo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Proposed draft bill number 2957, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 3 between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2029.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, motion is to approve. Roll call.
Councilmember Bolosan.
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kanashiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Opozo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Next item.
Proposed draft bill number 2958, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 4 between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2029.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bolosan.
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kanashiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Opozo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is proposed draft bill number 2959, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 13 between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2029.
Move to approve on first reading, schedule for public hearing on June 4th, and refer to the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or public testimony? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bolosan.
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Kanashiro.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaua'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Opozo.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Motion carried. Before we call the next item, how many people are here are going to testify today? Okay. I'm going to take our caption break now so we can have our 10-minute break, and then we can go right through and not have to break up the discussion for Bill 2951. I don't like to break up the momentum when we're moving, so please oblige us. We'll take our 10-minute caption break right now. Thank you. Okay, call the meeting back to order. Can we have our next item, please?
On page 6, proposed bill for second reading, bill number 2951, draft 1, a bill for an ordinance amending chapter 8, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to commercial use of park facilities.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Any discussion before we get started?
I have amendment.
Okay, with that, go ahead.
Move to amend as circulated.
Second.
This is just a simple piece of notification, just how to expand the notification a little bit. And so we will see it shortly up on the screen, and I'll remind my colleagues to push the button. Can we put that up there? We'll push to make us go back to green, everybody. All right, so this is on that footnote 5. It says, the applicant shall provide notice by 1, certified mail to all landowners of record within 300 feet of the parcel boundary. I had wanted to go to 1,000 feet, but it was problematic. Posting a notice in an agenda of the Planning Commission. That is so the planners can know as things go all around the island as they're coming up, they at least have some awareness. And then 3, posting a weather-resistant signage notice in at least one prominent location within the parcel boundary for at least 30 days. That way, if people are going to, I'm just going to make up a park, but in the main pavilion, maybe there's a notice that says Lidgate Park is being considered for such and such, and there might be a drawing, and it might say what, so that the people who use the park can see what is possible. We have done this a few times in the past, put it at the showers or something. Okay, and then it says, when submitting the Class 1 zoning permit application, which is an over-the-counter application, the applicant shall include an affidavit confirming completion of these notification requirements. So that's I think a really pretty small effort, but when you put a sign up in the park, those people the people who use the park are going to be the ones who's responding, right? People who see it in the park, they would be able to see it. So that is my suggestion for expanding notification. That's pretty simple.
Any questions of the introducer? If not, we are still on the amendment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this amendment? Not the bill. We'll have testimony on the full bill later, but on this amendment. Mr. Hart, I'll suspend the rules.
For the record, Bruce Hart, I just have one quick in regards to Councilmember Cowden's. She said 300 feet, and she said she was hoping for 1,000 feet, but it was problematic. My suggestion is I would like notification if I live within hearing distance of the activities. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Alice Parker for the record. Oh, I apologize for testifying on the wrong number. So move it over here, okay?
Thank you.
But I think this is a very good idea, that the people who use the park do need to see it. Also, I would suggest a notice in the newspaper also. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Psychos?
For the record, Lonnie Psychos, I support this amendment, and it also raises questions if we go down, if the use is approved by a Class 1 zoning permit, but within any subsequent 12-month period, blah, blah, blah. So what I've never seen in this bill is if someone goes through the process to get a Class 1 zoning permit at a county park, how long is that good for? Is that like forever? The first person that gets control of the park now has commercial control of the park forever. There's no time limit. And is anybody else allowed to compete against those people? The first person that gets the park, do they have sole use, or can they have a competitor arrive at the same day? And so this is appears to be completely open-ended and would be a lawsuit between the person that got commercial control of the park and the county or the public trying to regain control of the park. So it's very unclear and needs to be addressed before this bill goes forward, is how long does the permit last that you give to somebody to do commercial activity at the park? Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, I'm Carl Imperato, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself today. This amendment tries to improve what is basically a cobbles together process for public input. There are at least 3 or 4 problems with that footnote there. One being, of course, the public notice, which Council Member Cowden's amendment tries to address, and I think it addresses it satisfactorily. Second is the idea that anyone who wants to raise the issue has to do it in the form of a protest as opposed to a request for a public hearing. And we've already heard how people are intimidated from speaking out on these things, and for someone to say that they're going to protest the granting of a permit when there hasn't been any knowledge of what's going on at all, I think that puts an extra burden on them, so I think that ought to be fixed up. Third, of course, is the 300-foot distance. People are affected by far greater distance than that. And finally, and most importantly, is the process of requiring 50% of people or property owners in whatever the radius is to be opposed is a ridiculously high standard. When one wants to have a contested case, one only has to have one person that's got standing to basically make a contested case move forward. Hang
on real quick, Carl. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on the amendment? If not, you can proceed.
When someone files a complaint against something, one person can do that. So I would advise that really, while if you're going to keep this footnote as it is, that Council Member Cowden's amendment is a very good one. Really, that whole footnote needs to be revisited and create a really legitimate public process where you don't have to have a ridiculously high number of people protest something that they don't know about in advance and fear that in doing so, they're putting themselves on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the meeting back to order. We are on the amendment discussion. Mr. Kaneshiro.
Well, question for planning.
Okay.
And parks, I guess, if they're okay with the amendment.
Okay, with that, I'll suspend the rules, and can we have parks and planning?
Aloha, Chair. Kyle on behalf of the Planning Department, joined with Pat Porter, the Parks Department.
You guys have had a chance to see the amendment. Are you guys okay with the amendment?
Yeah, the council member went over the amendment with us yesterday. The Planning Department has no objections to the amendment.
Parks?
Yeah, Pat Porter, Director of Parks. We talked to Councilmember Kaua'i yesterday on it. I think having gone through a couple or a few ordinance amendments and administrative rules, I feel that the signage part is better captured in the administrative rules side. But having said that, I'm fine with it in these if everyone's okay with it.
Yeah. Management area minor permits. So the minor permit is a ministerial permit reviewed and acted upon by the planning department. So it's a little awkward to put things on the planning commission agenda that the planning commission is not acting on, quite honestly. But again, if it's being done for public notice purposes, we don't have an objection.
Was mentioned of being on the agenda for planning slow this process down significantly for people, or would there be an additional wait outside of that, or would that coincide with the 30-day period where we are kind of sending out notifications and putting up signage?
It would happen within that 30-day period.
Okay.
I can think of only once a year, on occasion, you might have no planning commission within a month. And that's just because lack of agenda items. You generally have a planning commission at least once a month. So being able to get on that agenda, attached to that agenda, if you will, shouldn't be problematic. In the rare case it does, essentially it would just have to wait till the next planning commission agenda.
Okay, great. And then would these signs, this month posted sign, would that be in line with our signage law? Would it require an additional permit, or would that just be like exempt from the signage as a temporary notice signage? Or
So that would be a department sign. So
okay. And would this only occur in county parks, not the community, or it would be both?
Both.
Both, right?
Hang on, Mr. Bulasan?
Follow up on that. Sorry, I may not be listening carefully enough. So if it has to go to planning commission, say the application comes in the day before you could post it into the campaign, you still has to wait till the next. No.
It just, at some point within that time frame, it has to be, at least as crafted, it just has to have been on a planning commission agenda prior to action on the class 1.
Okay. So it's not 30 days. Okay. And then secondly, the first part of the First Amendment was certified. Is that a normal practice? Do we do that?
That's the normal practice for use permits. In general, if you apply for a use permit, you have to mail it out via certified mail.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cooley?
Following up on the signs, I think I heard you say it would be a department sign. What is a department sign?
it would be just a department-initiated sign, so it wouldn't fall under the sign ordinance.
So this is not a weather-resistant signage. So this is telling the applicant has to post the sign, not the county.
And then if there is going to be one of these markets in a county park, the county parks department would be the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's usually a community notice. Maybe a poster's made, it goes into a piece of plastic, and then, you put it into the wood right there at the shower, right there at Honolulu. They're excited. Not everybody's opposed to these things, right? So people who are happy, they would be able to say, great, I want to be a part of it. And maybe there's a phone number, but like if the Parks Department's putting it out there, it's notifying people. And when we hear from our testifiers that the people who are complaining don't even use the park, then they wouldn't have to worry about it. This is going right to the market of the people who use the park. People who use the park might be thrilled, or they might have, maybe want to make a comment, or they might say, oh, wow. Does it have to be at night?
Of activities in the park. If this gets passed, we would need to create administrative rules to accompany.
And that's why you had said earlier you'd like to do this in the administrative
and
rules.
so in the administrative rules, there's going to be an outreach section.
Okay.
And in that outreach section, I would feel like that would be the place to identify all the things that you're talking
Now,
about.
as far as you know, is this the first time we're putting something like this in a bill regarding signage?
Yeah, I don't have too much experience, but it's first I've heard. Yeah.
But it's new to you, like you said. And you've been here how many years?
I don't know what. 6.5? How many years is this?
It's all a blur.
Almost 8, right? I mean, when you finish the whole term. Okay, thank you, Chair.
I have a question. Mr. Sykos brought up a good question. Is it an open-ended approval? I know the process is it'll go out to RFP, it'll go out to a bid. So whoever wants to participate or utilize that park space would have to bid. And how long would that?
So currently our concessions that we have current ongoing, the rule of thumb is 5 years with option for like up to 2-year extension. So that's kind of the rule of thumb so far. The rules process, there's a public hearing side to it.
Okay.
And so I would think that that kind of information will be ironed out in the public hearing part, and then it'll be incorporated into the administrative rule.
Yeah, I mean, I think some communities might feel one annual, you know, and then, or, okay.
Yep.
Got it. Mr. Connoisseur?
Yes, I have a question. So on the signage, so for state park, county facilities, county is going to put up a sign, but this is also going to be for private property and community use facilities. So what kind of sign, again, I mean, that's going to go through the process and in his rules figure out what kind of sign they're going to have. But if this amendment passes and the bill passes today, then these private property owners are going to have to put up a sign. Is it just like a wood sign with almost like a campaign sign with words on it, like a notice of the park thing, or?
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah.
So in the last meeting, the chair said, if you have things that are important, put an amendment together and put the parameters in there so that they at least make it in the rules. So I followed what the chair said, and I intentionally left it vague so that when the Parks Department is doing the rules, they might at that point come up with all these different ideas of how that's going to look and what it's going to be like. But I just wanted, based on what the chair told me, put that particular item in there. And generally speaking, over the years, we've had little signs in the yard that says, hey, I mean in the park, that says we're going to have a public hearing meeting at such and such as elementary school about this design, or, you know, it's a place where you can get to it because not everybody reads every detailed email. So I followed his directive.
My question is for community use facility, because this would also be for community use facility.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Not the rules is what the county has to do. For
Okay,
community use facility, they don't need to do rules.
So to me, if I was a market vendor, I mean, I was a market organizer, I would make a beautiful, strong-pitched thing that causes everybody to bias towards it. Hey, we're trying to do this. If you're support, you know, if they're doing it, well, then they can put up their own sign. But really, I see that we do have, I believe, somebody here from the board that looks after the park. The park owner, like Grove Farm or whoever it might be, Kaua'i, they're the applicant. So they would put the sign up that says, like if I was Kaua'i, right, in Keikaha and Waimea, I would put a sign up that said, this is what I'm thinking, and I would want to know what everybody's going to do, but just so they put it up. And so people have 30 days to see it, so they can get in support of it or in resistance of it, but that they can show we let the people know for 30 days before we opened it.
I guess for planning, when we do the 300-foot notification, what's in that message? Is it a long message, or it's just in that notice?
It would just identify the site via a description geographically of the site, as well as a tax map key identifier and the proposal of the market facility that's going to be there, what days it would occur.
So is that what should be on the sign?
It would be our position, should this amendment pass, that whatever's being sent out to the neighbors is also the same.
That's what gets put on the sign.
It gets put on the sign. And just, you know, for clarity too, and I know you asked the question earlier, Councilmember Holland, that Mr. Porter was referring to, there's a process for signage within the county parks for the community use facility, which is on private property. I believe they would be subject to the sign ordinance, and they'd still have to pull a sign permit from the building division and meet their standards for that sign. I believe, but I'd have to refer that specifics to the building division.
Ms. Holland?
Yeah, so I appreciate having public, obviously, engagement, which is why Councilmember Kaneshiro and I did add that 300 feet additional layer. When you look at all of the checks and balances for the state and county park facilities and the rulemaking process, my concern is that this bill is addressing the zoning of parcels. It's not addressing like our county parks. Like it's about all these public sites as well. So I have a couple of questions. I'm wondering, would all the existing markets that are ongoing right now have to then go through that process? And is there a way to incorporate these things into the park rules that protect because this seems to be addressing some of the concern that we've received around public parks, and obviously not like maybe the Grove Farms or even the Princeville Market that we're talking about as well. But I'm wondering if there's a way to get that commitment of working those things into the rules rather than having it apply to all the private parcels as well. Because this is upgrading allowances to zoning of open residential and ag parcels. It's really not specific to the county parks. I mean, there's other concerns that have come up that I'd like to see worked in, like, for example, Poipu Beach Park. Obviously a really inundated place. People have voiced concern that they don't want to see a farmer's market there. I think those kind of things will be also incorporated in when Director Porter goes through the administrative rules. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to include this without it also impacting the public parcels, if that makes sense.
The private. You got to remember, because I've heard Poipu Beach Park and showers, those will require an SMA permit.
Right.
Which is a next level of notification. I'd be amazed if anyone would go and spend the money on an SMA permit to do a sunshine market or an artisan market. I just don't see it happening. And being that it isn't an SMA, I find it difficult to believe that it would even get approved. But that's no here nor there. My point is, as we were discussing this amendment, let's not pocket parks, neighborhood parks, community parks. And I was talking to Mr. Cooper before the meeting that, I wasn't going to support this bill without a community input portion. This, to me, I think is wrong, and the amendment was done. And so we see that the notification, which gives the community an opportunity to chime in. So I just wanted to keep the discussion to what is likely to happen and not the what-ifs that will never happen. Any other questions for parks or planning? Go ahead.
Clarifying question.
Microphone.
Sorry. But as far as the posting again, parks would be responsible for that.
Put your mic.
Yeah, correct. If it was in a county park, it would be the Parks Department.
And then the time period, whatever the time period, I just want to clarify that because there was another one that was brought up earlier. So thank you for that.
Any other questions? Ms. Holly?
I just want to be clear. So would the existing markets all have to now go out and do this additional process as well?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Does any of you know? Either of you know how many markets we have actually operating on Kauai right now?
Not a full one. We took some direction from OED. I can say that to Councilman Cowden's point, Anainaho, Waipa, Hanalei, the Ag Park at Kilauea, all have farmer market use permits right now.
Okay.
Outside of those ones, I'm not leaving it. Outside of those ones, any other market occurring outside of the commercial district technically is going to have to go through this process if they want to legalize themselves.
Oh yeah, well they should. They should.
That would be interesting.
Mr.
Yeah, so, for this sign, I want it to be clear, what, more specifically what the private property community use facilities would need to go and do. Would you be able to provide them the language, for the notice so that, all they'd be doing is, going to, sign art and printing it on, a plastic board and then screwing it to a wood stake and then placing it somewhere in the park, right?
Yeah, and in my reading of it, the way I intend to implement it as drafted would be the same requirements that we place on all use permit notifications, from a geographical description, a description of the use, and a TMK identifying it.
And how much language is that on a board? Like,
It's basically roughly a sentence or two.
So let me ask you this. If this amendment passes and this bill passes, what differentiates this from a special use permit?
It's still, the notification is the same. And under the draft bill with the amendment that was adopted last week, the notification is the exact same as use permit. But if there is that criteria of less than 50% don't object, then it proceeds ministerially and it's done. If more than 50% object, then it gets moved into the use permit process.
Well, but with this requirement now, you're going to post it on the agenda.
So yeah, it's being posted on the agenda, but it's not.
But you're basically making this kind of like a, so for the audience,
Right.
we are seeing it for the first time, so I want to make sure I understand this 100% before I decide what I'm going to do, but I'm trying to fix it 50%, but the requirements are pretty much the same.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is the posting on the Planning Commission agenda, we don't have objections because there are already things that do that.
Trying to see. Yeah. The Planning Commission has no authority to act on these.
Right.
Can I respond?
Well, I'm asking them. I want to hear it from the departments as far as. And that's what I'm saying. It's an awkward position for the Planning Commission to be in, to have to receive testimony on something that's an agenda, but they have no authority to take action on. And that's what I'm saying. We didn't object because there are already cases of that occur on the agenda. So it is awkward, though.
Yeah, and it also, right now, the notification requirements restricted to 300 feet within the activity. You put it on the agenda, anybody can come and testify.
Correct.
I mean, it's no longer limited.
Well, okay. No, it's really a commentary. I could frame it as a question, but it's a comment.
Okay. Any other questions for planning or parks? You might as well stay right there, unless there's people that want to testify. Ms. Holland?
I'm just trying to be clear here as well. Do you feel that these, I'm still concerned about that also.
It was posted on the property, notifying those that just frequent that area that this hearing will be coming up. Like I said, it's not done on Kaua'i, but the signage posting is a practice that's not uncommon in planning.
Thank you, Chair.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
But this sign is just a notification sign. It's not a public hearing is coming up. It's just not a, like, come testify against it. It just notice that.
Members of the public will recognize a lot of the things that you heard today. There was a communication, and it gets read, and we say aye, and we accept it. So there's a lot of things that's pretty normal, pretty standard to get notifications. The reason why I would want this notification in there is that when there is an artisan's market 2 or a farmer's market 2, which it would go before them, before the Planning Commission, that they would be able to market 2, which it would go before them, before the Planning Commission, that they would be able to see, okay, well, 5 of them already happened in this whole general area, or they would be aware when these things are, I guess no pun intended, popping up around the community. They would have an awareness. It gives the Planning Commission an awareness of what's happening and what's going on so that they are informed. As council members, we are occasionally really shocked or surprised by something that's happening that just didn't somehow come across our awareness. So this is to have it be in the awareness of the Planning Commission. If I was on the Planning Commission, I would want to know, okay, we've had 7 in the past year, or we even haven't had 1 in the past year, so that they would have an idea.
So your intent of this is to notify the Planning
Commission,
not the public?
I mean, public are going to be able to see it, but how many people really watch the planning commission meetings?
And if it's unactionable, then they're wasting their time testifying against it.
And most people who are in the weeds enough, and I am one of them, if they're in the weeds enough, they would know, okay, it's just an unactionable item, but there it is. Like every week I read all those notices that are on the boards, and I pay attention to everything coming forward, and I just want to know what's happening. I do my best to be well informed. So if I was on the Planning Commission, I would want this there so I could see what it is. That's my intention behind it, so that they can do a better job at the job that they're doing.
Mr. Bulasan.
Mahalo for that clarification. Just for planning director, this wasn't a collaboration. Like, was this a request by the commission to have this on there so they could be notified?
They did not.
Okay, follow-up question.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Follow-up question. Is it your awareness that the Planning Commission, they've got to be somewhat aware because this went in front of them?
So they're aware of the bill and they recommended adoption of the bill. They did not review this. They did not request this option. But they haven't reviewed it either.
Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Any other questions? Okay.
I guess I'm a little more confused now.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
But I know I see some hands raising, so I would like to take some public testimony on the amendment. If
Maybe, yeah, I guess we'll take, because I thought the whole intention is to try and, get the, I mean, I've been hearing like, the public needs to know, the public needs to know. We put this process in, you know, I mean, I'm kind of like 50-50 on what it does this do its intended purpose to let the public know, but then I'm hearing that it's just to let Planning Commission know.
Well,
okay, hang on.
And so, I mean, if Planning Commission wanted something like this, then they could have put it in when they had the bill on their end, right? And say like, we want to know when someone's going to get a Class 1, so make a notification, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's take public testimony because I see a bunch of hands raising. And the rules are hit.
Good morning, council members. Desiree Hirani. Is it my phone?
Yes.
With due diligence, having hearings. What have we been doing for the past 5 months while we haven't been working? We've been working with you. We've been listening. You've been listening to us. We've had hearings. You know, we're not even making money right now, and we're still coming over here to fight for what we're doing. The public has had many opportunities to come forward, and the so-called scared ones could easily email testimony, strong testimony, and they have done so, these handful of people. But like, do we not trust the system that's already in place, that you're going to just go above and beyond what is not commonly done? You're basically saying that you're sitting in a position that you just don't trust. Let us move forward. Let us move forward, not put another hurdle. You know, it's just for a sign. I mean, we've had hearings for certified mail. I mean, it's very unclear still. The amendment has a lot of like questions when we can just move forward. And if the community then was being out of control, it has. Thank you, Errol and Conachero and Holland for putting those measures in place, those checks and balances. They were great. They were written very well. Let's move forward. Thank you.
Ms. Parker.
Alice Barker for the record. For us analog dinosaurs, can you also print it in the newspaper? Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Cycles?
For the record, Lonnie Psychos. Yeah, I'd like to point out that whatever decisions you make today create precedent for the future. And so this is not well thought out. Fern keeps raising the issue that by conflating the two completely separate issues you're trying to deal with has done nothing but create problems. You have two issues. One are markets on private property. That is completely separate than market property, and it's demonstrated by the regulatory difference in trying to do it on the two different kinds of property. Had you written a bill to address the events on private property, we wouldn't be having this discussion today. And had you a second bill, which I am fully in support of legalizing the sunshine markets on county property. But I'm for that because Sunshine Market has a director whose job is to ensure that everything sold at the market is in compliance with the market rules. For the private markets or for private run markets on county property, there's not one word in the bill of how it is that someone's going to ensure that the rules are followed, and if the rules aren't followed, what's the outcome? Mel earlier said, what ifs that will never happen, okay? That is the actual definition of having negative, unintended consequences occur. And so this is not well thought out. I have great compassion for the people who think that there's being additional hurdles put in front of them, but the hurdles are there for the reason that we don't want you legislating unintended negative consequences in the future, such as if someone gets a permit at a county park, goes through the whole process, and some people say it's a lot of money, takes a lot of time. Depends on how much money you have as to whether it's a lot of money. And it would be very cheap to invest $1 million into a few of our beach parks to get a 5, 10, 20-year exclusionary use of the park as a commercial site. And if you don't think that's a real possibility, you need to rethink what you're doing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the amendment? Mr. Hart?
I want to echo some of what Mr. Psycho said. From my perspective, this whole process can't move too slow. That's how important I think that this bill is. And so the amendments that Councilmember Cowden has put forward, I appreciate her participation. And I appreciate everybody, including the people behind me, their participation. But if we go too fast, we can't go back. I said this at my first testimony. The consequences of this bill are, to me, what I see in my mind, in my view, are immense. And so I support. I think what it is that something changed my mind in participation in this process. And that was something Council Chair said in regards to former Council Member Joanne Ukamura, and how she was in support of all amendments because she hoped to improve a bill, whether she supported the bill or not. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, come on up.
Hi. Amy Vanderhoop, just talking about the amendments. Just wanted to...
Again, what's your name?
Amy Vanderhoop.
Okay, thank you.
And I just, about the amendment, who's going to print the sign? And I'm wondering how long, like, if this passes, will the sign be printed tomorrow and put in, and then that's the 30 days that it starts from? Because if you guys live 5 months without your income, because it's going to go now 6 months, I'm just worried that it's going to become a year, and I'm not going to have any income for that long time. So I just want you to take that it can't come fast enough because I don't know if anybody else is without a job for 5 months, but it's a long time on this, particularly on this island. So please take that into account.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Apologize. We partly have to go to school and partly regarding the amendment. I appreciate again that we're being careful.
Your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Matthew Keelan, Sequoia Keelan on ourselves. I appreciate that we're being careful, that we're taking the time that we need to take to make sure we get this right. Also, on behalf of the entire community, I feel that we want to get this done right, and also we want to get it done expediently, because it is something that many local families are depending on. I am not one of those local families that's desperately needing to get back to work. Sequoia very much misses her lemonade stand, but it's something that what we want to make sure is that we're not putting this down the line so much that it becomes so exhausting that many in this room would fall down and just not be able to continue the process. And we have to get it right, but we have to give some relief to the local community. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Planning. Can I have you come up real quick? I just have a question. Oh.
Clayton Kubo, Waimea, Kaua'i. I can see this being a good thing for community members, people that want to sell, people that want to buy, but I hope you guys going to install some safeguards, okay? Say if going to get X amount of complaints, that maybe you guys going to have to say, oh, maybe it cannot be done over there already. Maybe like on sunset rules, because the state does that every time. So I understand, some guys in this room, I understand the outside of the room, but the situation is this. Safeguards needs to be in place for protect community residents, members around the parks also. So hopefully you guys going to consider that, but hey, you know what? Mahalo nui. I gotta go.
Well, Mr. Kubo, you read my mind because I was just calling up planning to ask the question about enforcement.
At this point in time, talking with this guy right here, hey, why not?
Yeah, if you could come up.
I sympathize with you guys' salary. But I have some safeguards.
So kind of, what we witnessed with Princeville was a complaint was filed, you guys went out, they were in violation, you shut it down. The remedies for communities that are impacted negatively by this activity, that maybe are being abused. Again, I keep having to say this is not about the Princeville market. This is about future markets that may come up.
Correct.
That may not be managed as well. What would the process be? So they went out, they got the bid, so they may have the ability to do this for a year or two or three. At what point does the planning department have the ability to go in and yank their permit based on a complaint, based on they started off selling local products and evolved into what do they call those things? It's the Aloha Bowl, Aloha Stadium flea market. What would be the path for the community to make sure that doesn't happen?
In the draft bill as written right now, should there be products being sold in the market that do not meet the standards of either a farmer's market or artisan market, if there's a complaint and there's one vendor out there found to be violating it, if there's a complaint and we inspect it, that property will get a notice of violation. And so I think it's to an earlier point that was made last week is the managers of these markets are going to have to run them with a pretty strong, enforcement mechanism of their standpoint, or we're going to come in, and if one vendor's violating it, the whole market is in violation.
Okay, so you issued a notice of violation. What happens next? Do they get fined?
If they're not fined right off the bat, they're provided the opportunity to be put on notice first, If the situation with the sale of products is not remedied within a timely manner, then indeed the property owner will receive a fine.
And is there ability to revoke the permit?
It's.
'Cause I agree with Mr. Kubo 100%. There has to be that safety net for the community.
Yeah, so that's for the sale of products, and you can't really revoke a zoning permit per se that's ministerial. It's kind of like if we granted somebody a class 1 zoning permit for a single family dwelling, they constructed it, and then they started operating a vacation rental. I can't revoke the single family dwelling zoning permit, but I can absolutely shut down the vacation rental. So
that's my point.
That's what I'm saying is that I can't. We wouldn't have the ability in this bill to revoke the class 1 permit if the sales of products are not lining up. But we have the issue to enforce.
But you could force compliance.
The second guardrail on it is, and I think more to the previous testifier's point and to your point, Chair, is that for the neighbors around the property, if more than 50% petition and opposition, even after the market's been granted, once that, if within a 12-month period under the draft bill, more than 50% object, then the market has to cease and it gets pushed to a use permit.
Got it.
I have a follow-up on your question. So you said that they would get a notice of violation. Is that the typical notice of violation that goes out from planning? Somebody's doing something wrong, so that's $10,000 per day per violation? Is that the fine that they are suggested? That's what happens if you're maybe using your garage wrong, or it's like you screened in a porch that you weren't supposed to screen in. The violation is $10,000 per day per violation.
Up to.
It can be up to.
Up to, so that's what these guys would be receiving. It would, and that would go to the manager of the market. They'd say, if you don't stop this within 30 days, you're going to have $10,000 per day per violation.
The notice goes to the property owner.
Okay.
And so then.
So Princeville would get it.
Princeville would get it.
Again, this is not a Princeville bill.
That's who's in the room.
The property owner would receive it. And the first notice of violation is just to put the property owner on notice that there are violations occurring. They'll provide an opportunity, of course, to rectify that. And if it's rectified in a timely manner, we do not issue fines. If it's not rectified in a timely manner, then indeed we do issue fines.
So if somebody I just want people to understand how vague all this is. Because it was somebody else's comments. If they're bringing mangoes and sweet potatoes from one of our big box stores and they're putting it on their farmer's market there, whose job is that? I can usually tell when it's a different piece of produce that doesn't grow here. So are we expecting our inspectors to go out there and be able to tell what is a Kaua'i mango versus a continental United States, or something, I don't know, wherever the big box store gets it from. But I mean, I just want people to know how severe the notice can be when people make a mistake. So it could easily be that the market manager misses something, and so if that's found, you find the boxes that it's coming from a wholesaler, it's coming from Asaki's or something. It's coming from a wholesaler. The private landowner would get that $10,000 per day notification.
Again, they don't get fined right off the bat.
They don't get fined. That wasn't my question. My question was, is that the notification that they're going to get? It's going to say that on that notification that there's been a violation.
Correct.
Okay.
Just a follow-up on that. Does that not seem like a pretty good check and balance as is? Without
It's an overwhelming check and balance. What happens is people that can't afford a lawyer, everything falls apart. So
so I'm actually wondering, are you?
I'm not against this farmers. I mean, this artisans market. What I'm wanting them to know is when something is done that breaks the rules. They buy something from a wholesaler and they're just selling it. If something breaks the rules, it's going to go to the landowner.
No, I understand that.
And then they might lose their whole market. But the landowner could say, hey,
I understand that, but I'm trying to be clear. It sounds to me like you support the existing regulations as they are.
No, I don't. I think
Okay,
they're
so you
awful.
don't think
for
that's
all-
excessive?
I think it's excessive. I'm complaining about it regularly, and I've tried to change it.
That it's too high.
That's, again, it's not, it's up to 10,000. So it's not 10,000, it's up to 10,000 a day. So again, you know, we're painting a different picture. Don't do that. It's up to 10,000. It might be a $50 fine a day. It might be $25 a day. Hey, so let's not, I want to make sure the
That's what
public
it says,
is not
up to
led down a
$10,000.
different.
Intended
Okay.
TVRs, right?
Yes.
Question for Ka'aina. Back to this posting notice in the agenda. I'm just trying, I mean, this whole process is to try to make it easier to have farmers markets and artisans markets. I'm trying to see, like, with these added stuff, how much more onerous is it on the landowner or the petitioner? For posting the notice, do they need to do anything, or will planning just post it for them? Like,
The department would have to post it.
so you'll see the permit notice, they don't need to fill out anything, you guys will just post it for them?
Place it on the agenda.
And
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Clarity on that is, and that would all happen within the existing 30 days. So currently, as I understand it, they would have to send out letters, certified mail letters to the surrounding property owners. Then these additional 2 checks would not add additional time. It would happen within that 30-day period that they,
As drafted right now, the notification of the 300-foot abutting property owners, that has to occur prior to the 30 days, right? So once they walk in with their receipts of mailing, of certified mailings, is when they can apply for that zoning permit. And then that zoning permit, the Class 1 zoning permit, has a 30-day time window for action. And if it's not acted upon within 30 days, it's automatically approved. So it would need to be, it would need to have, within that 30 days, evidence of the posting of the sign or evidence of being placed on a planning commission agenda. If it doesn't have any of those as drafted, that 30-day actionable time frame would necessitate the planning department denying the zoning permit.
right, so just for clarity, if they were to go to the mail out all those certified mail and put those sign up the same day, that 30 days
That would also meet it.
is this, right, okay.
And that's what I'm saying is that on rare occasions, there will be a time where the planning commission may not meet in the month. If they've applied for that zoning permit and mailed out those notifications, and for some reason there's no planning commission that month, then the applicant has failed to meet that requirement. And so that would result in me or a representative from planning department denying the Class 1 zoning permit. And then they'd have to restart again when there is another planning commission.
You know, on that side, it makes me feel like I would be inclined to support the sign over that planning commission notice if that's the case.
I'd like to make a motion to call for the vote.
We're still, the rules are suspended right now.
All right.
And any other questions for,
Yes, I'm fast.
go ahead.
Just clarifying again, so there is a violation, right? The process following that is not a complete shutdown, but there's a process in place that would be given.
Correct.
Can you go through that one more time, just?
If there's a violation for, if there's a violation, it depends on the violation.
Yeah.
If there's a violation, say that there are products being sold at a vendor site,
Yeah.
A notice of violation will be issued to the property owner. And if it's not rectified, then the property owner is given time to rectify that situation with the vendor or vendors. If it is not rectified, then a fine would be implemented. The only time we ever fine $10,000 is on repeat vacation rental operations. But should they continue to allow vendors, and there's clear evidence that the vendors are selling products that are not to be sold in these markets, then additional fines would be imposed. There could be a violation where, say, they're operating on a third day, right? They have a permit to operate. They got their permits, and they're operating. They're supposed to operate 2 days, and they operate on a third day. Then a notice of violation would be issued to the property owner on that. And unlike the concern with inappropriate products being sold, if they're operating on a third day, they just need to shut down that third day. And if they don't, then indeed fines would be imposed.
I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
On that notice of violation that says if you fail to comply, you can be fined up to $10,000 per day per violation. Anywhere on that notification of violation, is there a chart that says, hey, if it's kind of a Manini situation, we'll charge you $50 a day, or is there any kind of chart that says anything less than that $10,000 a day?
There is an internal chart that the
Internal, but is it on? It is not. It's not on the notification. So, is it correct that we have met at least a good handful of times when people are just terrified? And is it correct that we have this hard ask at the beginning because it forces compliance? When people see $10,000 per day, they comply. If you said $50 a day, they think I could live with it.
So I don't know the question.
Is that correct? Like, because we have spoken about this a number of times. There's a reason that there's not a lesser value on the notification, because if it was a lesser value of what we're saying we don't charge them, they wouldn't react. I've tried to lower.
That's correct.
I've tried to lower it and make it reasonable, and I've not been supported in that.
I'd say that's an accurate statement. That
It's an intimidation.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you know what? You don't even have to respond to that. I mean, we're on this amendment on notification pre-application, not post. So let's keep the discussions. Any other questions for planning? If not, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the amendment? If not, I'll call the meeting to order. Ms. Holland, you feel free to make your motion to call for the question if that's what you want to do.
That wasn't me.
It was me. I just thought.
You said call for the vote.
I did, because it seems like it's pretty obvious how it's going to go, so we can just
It's
move
never.
on. Okay.
So you make your decision. I'm giving you an opportunity. You said you wanted to call for the vote. You can do that now while we're in order.
If you guys would like to speak about it, okay, I won't call for the discussion.
Well, this is.
I'm confused.
Yeah, we're in discussion now.
Okay, I'll discuss.
Go ahead.
So, again, like I mentioned in last meeting, where I passionately shared my support for farmers markets and markets in general, I continue to feel like 6 months to 7 years of an application process, depending on the situation, is rather excessive. I think, feeling that beach parks, would require complete EISs that can range from $500,000 to over $1 million just for the EIS. I think that we have a very long way to go before that is an issue, and there will be so much opportunity for public to weigh in on that part of the process. That for me, I feel confident. I do want Councilmember Cowden to be comfortable with the additions and the changes. I feel like at the Planning Commission part, I'm kind of hesitant to include because I just don't want to see that end up being the month where it's another month added on to the process to people. So I'm hesitant to support it because of that. But the signage part, I feel like, is an excellent part to be included in the administrative rules for the parks, for the public spaces. And I will encourage Director Porter, should that be the path that we take, that is a part of the notification. And I totally understand the value of these, and I really appreciate the effort to try to create those checks and balances. As it stands right now, this is a broad measure for zoning allowances, and I just don't see how either of these have actionable steps outside of the public notice, which I do support, but nothing that would change the outcome of the market. So, we have these excessive violations that you just discussed. They almost seem like, are too much.
Excessive fines.
Fines, yeah, for violations. Thank you. But I just feel like, in general, these processes of the rules, the peddlers and concessions, all of these different things that we have for parks, is great. And again, would incorporate the signage part into the public parks. But I think it's broad here and just another step. But thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
If I took out the Planning Commission, would you support it?
I do feel that would be more appropriate, given that additional step could drag out time, but also given that there's not really an actionable part of that. And again, the notification signage part I think is great. People should absolutely know that the park is.
Okay, I move to amend taking out,
Hang on. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
I move to amend taking out posting a notice in the agenda of the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? We'll treat that as a friendly amendment. And anybody in the audience wishing to testify on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So the amended amendment is now
Number 2.
without number 2, and the text will be renumbered. So we have two now. You have the certified mail and the weather-resistant signage.
Which would happen simultaneously.
Yes.
For the applicant.
Well, I'm still a little confused as to how that works, because what is this? I'm trying to figure out. You put what is it going to say? This site will possibly be used as a market. Like those empty future site of Central Pacific Bank. I'm trying to understand
A portion of
how that works.
So,
Because the letters have already gone out. The 300 certified letters have already gone out. So the people that that's going to be directly impacted will get their notifications. So I'm trying to understand the objective of the signage. I heard you, Councilmember Cowden, earlier. I heard your objective, but I'm thinking, what does that do to an event that may not even be approved? You know what I'm saying? So, take for example, I'll use the Wailo House Lots Park because that's one that was brought up earlier. And you got to put up a sign there that I'm not sure what the sign would say. It would say, there's been a permit application for the market, Sunshine Market, that'll be happening here. Understand, this thing still has to go out to bid. It still has to go out through the procurement process. Still has to go out through that entire state mandated process that could take 6 months, depending on the bids, depending on protests. So I'm just trying to understand. What I don't want is unnecessarily riling up a community for something that may not even happen. I think that is where I stand, because that's what this will do, right? It's gonna allow people from all over this island that happen to be at that park to be notified on something that may not impact them. So that is my concern. It's not as if the activity was already approved. Now, the applicant that is applying for this permit may not even get the bid. They may not even win the bid. So I don't know. I just think it's unnecessary because of the way this bill sets up the process. If it was a traditional permit and there's no RFP process, then absolutely applicants should be doing that. But this, you don't know who the ultimate person is going or group is going to be to be operating in that park, because it has to go out through the RFP process.
can I ask Parks to come up again then? Because I think you're talking about Artisans Market 2 and Farmers Market 2, so I just want to ask, because my understanding of Artisan Markets 1 and Farmers Market 1 is that it doesn't have to go out to bid. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, maybe I misread the.
So I might be wrong.
It does go out to bid.
Even Artisan Market 1 goes out.
Artisan Markets 2 goes special use permit, so that pretty much will take care of itself, because the public participation in a special use permit is significantly more.
So does Artisan Market 1? I thought that Artisan Market 1 is like 2 days a week max. Artisan Market 1, I thought that didn't have to go out to bid. If they showed that they put out their 300 pieces, they still have to go out to bid.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
In a county and state or county facility.
In a county facility, yes.
So even Artisan Market 1 goes out to bid.
Yes,
Okay.
be required.
All right.
I actually read the stuff.
So in that case,
I read it over and over again, and and I talk to them. I have more questions once this is done. But
Any other, thank you, Pat. I'll call the meeting back to order. Any other discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Go ahead.
So given that we're saying that the person that has to do the certified mail, put the signage up, would then also possibly not get the bid if this is a county park. So that means that that person would spend, I mean, I think just in Princeville, trying to hire somebody to do certified mail costs them like a couple $1,000s. So
Well, Princeville would be different. Again, I don't like talking about specific parks, but private property would be different. It wouldn't.
well, no, it wouldn't for this, right? It would be the same. They would have to put up the sign.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
But they wouldn't,
So in addition
there
to
would
the
be no
certified-
RFP process.
Right.
So the applicant would be the market operator.
Right.
Versus in a county park.
And the certified mail part. Okay, yeah.
So I'd like to call for a motion. I mean, I would like to call for a vote because it seems a motion for
Before
public vote.
can I have a discussion?
Well, if she called for the motion, I got to honor the call, but I would need a second.
But we were in final discussion on the.
Yeah, but the call,
But it just seems
hang
that we're
on,
taking so
hold
much
on, the
time
call,
that
she
it's
made the call
obvious.
for the question, that takes precedent. She made the second. So with that, the motion is to, this is just on the amendment now.
This is just an amendment.
The motion is to approve the amendment as amended. Roll call.
Councilmember Bolosan?
No.
Councilmember Carvalho?
No.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Kaneshiro?
No.
Councilmember Kaua'i?
No.
Council Chair Opozo?
No.
Motion
Just wanted
fails.
to say this time.
Okay, we are back to the main motion. And is there any further discussion?
I have-
I'll take some discussion before we make it public testimony. Go ahead.
Okay, I have questions for Parks and Planning.
Okay, with that, I'll suspend the rules. What are we on?
Nice to see you guys again.
Yeah.
Oh, the, back, yeah.
Back it up, yeah.
Thank you so much. So, Parks Chair Pat Porter, I asked you if you could answer my questions. I gave you some questions. I suggested maybe a little PowerPoint. Did you do that?
No, but
Okay.
I'll answer questions though.
So I'll just ask the questions. These seem like pretty simple questions. It's when we have organized markets per park, and for the room, I'm really talking about public parks. So when we have organized markets per park, on the Artisans Market and Farmers Market 1, it says 2 days per thing. But so how many organized markets could be the same? Does it have to be the same farmers market for both of the 2 days, or can we have two different market organizers?
So it would all go back to how it's bid out.
How to bid out?
How it's bid out.
So we don't know yet. We don't have that answered, but it would be when if this passes, you'd do some rules and regulations, and then you would try and decide how it would bid out.
Yeah, but it could also be incorporated into those administrative rules too, through the public hearing process. So
Okay.
It might be a desire of the community that those types of issues that you're bringing up are incorporated into the administrative rules, and so they'll be incorporated that way. Or if it's not incorporated in the administrative rules, it would be incorporated in the bid package and the contract.
So when we look at that, could it be incorporated into the administrative rules? Say we had two different artisan market groups, because there are those, and two different farmers market groups. We have 2 days. Can we have a farmers market and an artisans market side by side, which is, in my view, best for business? You know, can we have two organizers on the same day?
How it's written is possible.
How it's written?
What I would say is that what the Parks Department would do is we would go out. So let's take a step back. The only reason the Parks Department would pursue this is if there was community support to have these type of markets in a park, in a specified park. Throughout the years, we've got inquiries about farmers markets and artisan markets. People usually say crafts, but artisan markets. So there is some interest out there. I don't know how much interest, but there has been some over the years. So what we would do, we would take that information, and what we usually tell the people inquiring is that go get community support. If there's community support for this activity in the park, then we'll take a look at it. Okay, but we wouldn't pursue it on our own. Okay. So now, say there is community support. Okay, people come to the office. They have a petition. There's a bunch of the people in the neighborhood want it. Then what we would do is we would initiate our own outreach as a department, and then we would take the findings of that outreach and determine whether we want to pursue it, because it's a long process. The administrative process to get this going is a long one. So, and on top of that, we would look at the site itself. Okay, so we would look at parking availability. We would look at traffic plans, all that kind of stuff to determine whether that site is appropriate for this type of activity. If we'd be looking at the use of the facility, the current uses, and if this will impact the current uses and its intended purpose of the park, we would look at all of that before even going down the path of putting out a bid.
Okay, so just so I have it clear, because I actually like what you're saying, so I just want to hear, in this process when you're figuring out the rules, I'm just going to give an example. Say Kaua'i wants one. And so Kaua'i decides that they're going to do it in Brian J. Baptiste. I'm picking that one because we don't have to worry about the SMA. Brian J. Baptiste Park, and they want it, and they're going to put, they have an idea. So that the community be community driven, they would come to the Parks Department, and they would say, hey, this is what we want. So then you would work with them to go through the process. It has to come from the community first. It's not going to come from a company putting in an application.
No.
All right. I like that one. And then, so when we determine how many vendors would be allowed in the market, that would also come through the same process. It might have to do with the size of the market, the size of the property.
Yep, exactly.
And then the ball players, like to me, if you have it right against when you got all these games going on, people who are bored waiting for their kid to play, they might go shop, right? So it would be, they could decide it's just going to be in a certain part of the park. There's enough parking, and it's not going to keep them from being able to park when they go see their kid play, or it's not going to keep their kid from playing.
Yeah, we would look at, is this market activity impacting the intended use of the park itself? Because this market isn't the purpose of the park. So say Brian J. Baptiste is a sports complex, and so that is the intended purpose. Having a market there, we would look at whether it's impacting that intended purpose before. Yeah.
There is really enough room to do it, and then you have the aggregated customer base there because they're all there for all these games. Okay, so I just wanted to know that. What is the process for determining which days of the week? Like, how would that go? Because is there a process, or how would you at least open up the process for determining which days of the week?
That would be through the outreach portion.
And there would be plenty of time for community to come together and say, we want it when we're playing these games, or paddling canoe, or they could say, we absolutely don't want it then.
Yep.
And then so even if it's a Class 1 permit, you're going to have the opportunity to give that feedback.
Yes.
Okay, these are all important questions that I wasn't able to ask last week because he wasn't here. What will be separate permits for different, will there be separate permits for different parks or one permit for multiple parks? So it's sounding like you're already kind of answering that. These 4 different communities want one, but they probably won't all happen at the same time. All right, and then, all right, this is kind of what the chair asked. What are the guardrails on the market permits. So number of years, terms of agreement, is there a reset? So if I understood correctly, Director Hall said when you give a permit, it's like giving a permit to put in a single-family residence. You can't easily pull that permit back. So the permit, just like a single-family resident permit, could be sold.
You can't sell the permit, but
You could sell the business that owns the permit.
no, the permit runs with the land. So if the land is transferred, that permit runs with the land.
So then
And sorry, I apologize, because we're talking two different tracks here. We're talking a parks permit and a zoning permit.
Okay, so
the zoning permit runs with the land.
So in the zoning permit, when there's a permit to do an artisan market 2 and an artisan market 1, the county would own the permit. And then they would put the permit out to bid. So somebody wins the bid on the permit. So the person who say they wanted to move away, or they have whatever reason, or they violated things too often, and so they couldn't afford the big fine, or there's some challenge. What would terminate the permit to allow that in the park?
The permit itself, the zoning permit wouldn't be terminated, but I believe the bid would be.
So in Chapter 23, dealers and concessionaires, permits are non-transferable.
Permits are untransferable. So if Felicia's Fabrics has the permit and I decide I don't have the capacity to do it for whatever reason, I have to let go of the permit. I can't basically sell my business that owns that permit.
Correct.
So the permit would extinguish with the bidder, the person who won the bid, it would extinguish there.
Yeah, and then as the county parks, we would go back out for bid after that one
Okay.
is gone.
And then, would there ever be a reset? Like if there was enough complaints, would it be that the Parks Department might decide, we had too many problems?
So that can be written in the administrative rules also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, does a sealed bid process typically go to the highest bidder?
Yes.
All right, so it would likely follow, like, when the bid process comes out, maybe if I'm the bidder, I might say, I'm willing to spend, I'm just going to make up a number, haven't really thought it, but $5,000 a month. So then I would be bidding $60,000 per year to have the permit. Is that how that works?
It's a per month.
Per month,
They'll
so
be,
in
they'll
that
be
case,
bidding based off of a per month.
$5,000 a month. So I would make the bid that way, and I would put in my bid what I'm looking for. So I had a question, is there a visual schematic for the planning and parks process timeline? But we don't have that. That's kind of one of the things I was asking for. And then when I spoke with you, you had said there's just going to be one permit per park. Is that what you're thinking now, or is that, because I didn't see that anywhere in this bill. I didn't see anything in the bill, 2951, that says we're going to do 2 permits or 3 permits per park.
So I don't think we can, in this situation, I don't think we can determine that. I think how it'll play out, it'll be one.
Say that one more time. There's too much noise. I couldn't quite hear it.
I think how it'll play out that it will be probably one per park.
It will.
Because, like Chair mentioned, that it's not going to all happen at the same time. So each park, each space needs to be assessed on its own, yeah. And so that has to go, each one has to go through its own process. So I'm thinking that that's how it's going to play out.
So when we go through the learning process, maybe we do it in the park that I'm talking about, and then we run into some problems that would maybe inform our choice for the next park that would be up for consideration, if we had a problem. So when we make these rules or we lay out the process, it's going to be somewhat adaptable. I don't want to quite call it fluid, but it will adapt as we move into the next ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, this was, I had asked for these. I have like one more real key question. And so I was speaking with both of them, and they said that we needed to really ask real property tax. So I want to ask my questions with them sitting here because other people might have questions. So I did ask these questions to real property tax. So, and I won't read out all the long answers because I got 3 answers because from 3 different elements of it. But my first question was, is there or will there be a real property tax class change for private use, community use facilities that are currently paying a minimum tax of $150 when commercial market operations are actively permitted? Because this is what you call class 6, is that right? Like when people are doing it for, is the type 6 permit?
It's a type 6 activity.
A type 6 activity in the county rules is when it is for profit.
For profit.
So if we're doing something for profit, that would be a class 6, type 6 permit of a county park. But if it was in a private park, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking if it would get a real property tax class change. So from the managing director, who has a lot of authority, she said, I can't see any changes to RPT tax classes coming out of this bill. But then Steve Hunt's response, who is a key person in this, he says, the definition of a community use facility as follows, so we gave it to them. Pursuant to Bill number 2951, Draft 1, it must be, he's saying, it must be commensurate with a County of Kauai Park facility, according to both the planning director and the director of Parks and Recreation. Pursuant to this bill, once deemed a community use facility, the parcel might be eligible for certain artisans and farmers markets, also as defined in the bill. So then he says, in his answer, he says, I could see a scenario where the private community use facility property is leased to a nonprofit that manages the civic, recreational, cultural, and social activities. So that would be like WIPA, right? So long as these aforementioned uses are deemed as charitable use, as defined under 5A-11.10, then the property or eligible portions thereof would be exempt from all but the minimum tax. So, but if they aren't a charitable use, if they are a type 6 use, which means it's for economic benefit, it wouldn't fall into that. And so that's his answer right there, and that was a really important question for me.
You have a question for them?
This is what I asked, and I was going to have it, and then so RPT couldn't be here, real property.
Right, but do you have a question for these 2 gentlemen?
Well,
What you just did was you did commentary, which is perfectly okay when we're in discussion, but this is question and answer for these 2.
Okay, I didn't want them to move away in case other people had questions, but I wanted to tell them. I wanted to give them the answer that we discussed, is that unless it's a charitable use, it actually could very easily change the property tax.
Again, that's not, this bill doesn't talk about the taxes of these parcels.
But it's an important consideration. It's a very important consideration for the private owner of the property.
Well, but then again, that's not why we're here today. I mean, they are well aware of what it's their choice. But my point is, in the spirit of the Sunshine Law and Robert's rules, do you have any questions for these 2 gentlemen versus giving them a lesson on what you learned from RPT? This is a Q&A for these 2. That's what we're here.
So I tried to preface it with that, and you didn't stop me at that point. So
No, I asked you if you had a question. That's what I asked you.
No, but before then. So I just said that was what I had asked them, and they couldn't answer it. So.
Yeah, because it's not, they're parks and planning, they're not RPT.
Okay, so real property tax couldn't come today?
Okay.
So, all right, so I'm stopping.
Okay.
Other people have
Any
no
other
questions.
questions for these 2? If not, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the main bill? I'm sorry? Oh, is there a list of registered speakers? I'm sorry.
For the bill as amended.
This is the final discussion.
Yeah, so the first registered speaker is Desiree Hirani, followed by Carl Imperato.
Okay, Desiree.
I tried to time this several times so I don't get the red light.
You'll have 3 minutes, yeah? When it goes, you can just stop the clock. When it goes to orange, you have 30 seconds, and we have multiple, so you'll have to come back on a second time. So just when that orange light goes, you have 30 seconds.
Aloha, Chair and Council members. Desiree Hirani here, and I'm just here today. I came in just feeling deep gratitude. I just want to say, as this is the last topic, a heartfelt mahalo to Fern. I remember in the very beginning when our market got shut down, we were all in a panic mode. We didn't know what to do. So we used the tool, social media. We tagged all of you. Everyone was confused. We even got feedback that you guys, it wasn't your kuleana. Come to find out it was. We found out, and I picked up the phone call I called Fern, and she picked up, she heard me, and she told me, I got you. And that gave me such a relief knowing someone was behind us. That was like the first big hurdle. Fern, thank you so much. Together with Errol Kaneshiro, thank you for standing beside Fern and bringing your wisdom, your roots in agriculture, and your steady voice to help make this a reality. We are so happy with the bill that you created and amendments. Mahalo also to Kaua'i Hall. Wow, this guy sat with us, listened to us, helped us. We don't understand laws. He took the time to sit with all of us and explain to us what needed to be done to make this correct. Thank you, Kaina. To my market, Ohana, thank you. Your resilience, your unity, and your unwavering strength through these past few months have carried us to this moment. And I'm so proud of you. Endlessly proud to stand beside you. This bill is more than paper on words. It's a symbol that our work matters. That our contributions to the island, whether through handmade goods, locally grown produce, or small family businesses, we deserve a place in this community. When we first learned we would have to change a law to continue our markets, it felt like a mountain that no one would dare to climb. But today, thanks to all of you who have stood beside us, listened to us, you reminded us that local government can work for the people. That when we come together with transparency, with pono, and with heart, we can solve problems the right way. This has been an emotional, exhausting, eye-opening journey, but it's also been one of the most powerful experiences of my life. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for believing that this was worth the fight. Let's finish this strong, and I ask you again, please pass Bill 2951, because we still have yet to go before Princeville and get their permission as well. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. Next.
Carl Imperato, followed by Lonnie Psychos.
Well, I'm Carl Imperato. I'm speaking for myself today. But as you know, I provided testimony on behalf of the Hanalei Waianiha and a Community Association. And that testimony simply requested that there be public process and standards for all market approvals, the Type 1 and Type 2. That markets that impact residential neighborhoods be limited to more than 1 day a week, and that this legislative body here and now act to protect the beach parks by having the CZO not allow such markets in the beach parks, rather than punting to Parks and Rec to do that somehow in the future. The testimony also acknowledged that the existing markets, like the Princeville market, should be allowed to operate while this public process was underway. But none of that was done. So what we have here is a bill that's rather extreme, because under the CZO now will allow commercial markets up to 7 days a week in all neighborhoods, in all county parks, with a public process that's designed to make it really difficult to initiate any planning commission review for the Type 1 markets. No balance, no compromises, no protections. Now, all of these problems could have been addressed without delaying the return of the Princeville market by even a day. But instead, the leaders of the market, the principal market, have demanded that the county pass the bill as is. Leave it to them, not the Planning Commission, to look out for the interests of the residents in the neighborhoods that are harmed. The CZO doesn't need standards for markets. Leave it to market operators to do that. There's no need for public hearings. Market operators will take care of all of this. That short-sightedness and one-sided self-interest, empowered by bad legislation that has no standards and process, what could go wrong? It looks like things are going to go the way they're going to go, but I would really hope that you would do some more to protect. I want to close by saying three things about this process, though. First, I had requested to briefly meet on behalf of the Community Association with each of the council members to discuss our concerns. I want to thank the 3 council members that had the courtesy to reply. I want to thank council members Raposo, Cowden, and Holland. I say thank you, even if you didn't agree with many of the things. Secondly, I want to publicly acknowledge and express gratitude for Councilmember Cowden's hard work on this and other matters. She and I disagree on a lot of things, including aspects of this bill. That's all right, because I know that she reads the testimony, considers, and responds to it. And finally, I do want to apologize on behalf of the people who aren't in this room to Councilmember Cowden for the appallingly disrespectful and abusive testimony that she had to endure last week, including from the leader of the Princeville Market Group. I apologize. Thank you all for the time that you've given me. Thank you for considering things. Hello.
Thank you, Carl. Next.
Lonnie Psychos, followed by Lexi Jones.
For the public record, Lonnie Psychos. I'd like to say that I agree with the last statement by Mr. Imperato. The last meeting held on this was utterly abusive, and this chamber all too often is a hostile environment, both to the public, who disagrees with you on occasion, and constantly for your, 5 years now on the county council, Ms. Cowden? It's disgusting how you people treat the members of the council, and it's public record. You don't know what I'm talking about, Fern. You should watch the last meeting. You should go review it. Now, the problem here today, once again, is you're trying to legislate 2 unrelated items. One is private property, one is county and state property. And so you don't want to admit that your legislative process is flawed. And so we sit here with this flawed bill. We sit here with the people you're trying to help unhappy at how slow the help is. And you're here with the public that is outraged that 70 years of precedent of our parks being non-commercial are instantaneously going to be commercialized. And we do not believe what you tell us because you don't understand yourselves. We listen to the back and forth between the council members and planning and parks. And so what you're asking us to do is to approve commercializing our parks, and then after that's done, you'll tell us what the rules are. You have the cart before the horse. Now, once again, I am fully in supportive of sunshine markets on the county properties. But I have an issue. I was a commercial fisherman for 30-some years in Hawaii. And so I know as a fact I drove boats for both the state and private parties, and the county waters extend 3 miles offshore. So if you go more than 3 miles offshore and catch a fish, if you want to sell it at these markets, you're in violation because you're not in county waters. You're in state and federal waters. And if you go more than 200 miles offshore, you're in international waters. And so, again, your lack of understanding about commerce is got this bill messed up.
Speaker?
Last registered speaker is Lexi Jones.
Is Lexi here? Okay. Is anyone else wishing to speak for the first time? Please.
Aloha, council members. Brian Allen with the Princeville at Honolulu Community Association. Just wanted to say thank you all for the consideration you've given for this bill. I know it's been a long process and appreciate where we've arrived with the process. Thank you for all the market supporters and the vendors, the artisans, the craft members. I know that they put a lot of passion into this as well. And I'm sorry that they had to endure all of this. When I came on to Princeville in last June, the market was already operating. I thought it was my job to just continue to keep it under operation, not realizing all the other aspects that go along with this. So one thing I did want to bring up is this is, the first part of the process. Princeville does have a board of directors, and they still have to decide on this. Princeville, as some of you know, is a nonprofit corporation. It's not a homeowners association. We're a nonprofit corporation set up in the early 90s to manage the Princeville property, which currently encompasses about 3,000 acres of the total 9,000 acre Princeville property. So in that, there are rules, covenants, restrictions that were created when the park was dedicated for the from Princeville Corporation to the Princeville community. There were some restrictions that were put onto the park, and I know some of that's been, I think, talked about and talked around in this bill process, but I just wanted to read those restrictions and covenants as they're read. There's only 4. It's very short. But just so everybody kind of has a general understanding of where this is, when we talk about the county parks and why the county parks are involved in this when it's technically private property. So the land described in Schedule A, blah, blah, blah. Number 1, the land shall be used for a park facility. This is in reference to the 7-acre parcel known as Lot 1 in the Princeville development. The land shall be used for a park facility. 2, the land shall be restricted and prohibited from all other non-recreational uses except that the owner may develop community facilities similar in purpose to the County of Kauai neighborhood centers for its use and at its expense at some future date, subject to the architectural guidelines established or to the established by Princeville Corporation for Princeville 2 subdivisions, which is our neighbor property there in Princeville. And then the general public shall have the opportunity to utilize the park and other permitted facilities subject to rules which may be developed from time to time by Princeville at Honolulu Community Association. So just wanted to, I guess, put some context to all of this for everybody here in the room as well, kind of why this is tied to county parks and not just private use parks, and what the overall implications are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a clarifying question.
Hang on, sir. We have a question.
Sure.
So when I'm looking at item number 2, and it says, the land shall be restricted and prohibited from all other non-recreational uses. So this market is a non-recreational use, but it goes on to say, the owner may develop community facilities similar in purpose to the County of Kauai neighborhood center. So is that your building on the property?
Correct. So when these rules were made, we did not have built in the early 2000s, so about 10 years after these rules were made.
So do you know how your board is considering non-commercial, non-recreational uses? That we're not talking about the building, we're talking about the park.
Correct.
So how are they interpreting a commercial use as a non-recreational use? Has that question come up?
It has, and we were waiting for this bill to pass to see if it's even something for us to discuss. Now that it looks like this bill is going to move forward, something that we would have to go back. We'll probably have to get a land use attorney to advise us on what is non-recreational use. Is there a component that can be added to the market that makes it a recreational use? And then obviously working with planning and parks to kind of define what those non-recreational uses could be and include.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for the first time? Mr. Hart?
For the record, Bruce Hart. The last testimony gave me an open door. The bill reads, relating to commercial use of park facilities. And I couldn't form it in my head, but the last testimony, non-recreational, recreational. That's what the issue is for me. My concern is giving, I'll preface this with saying that I have nothing against sunshine markets, nothing against the usage that believe that they are worthy to be able to do it. I believe it's something that's good for the community. But it reads the commercial use now as opposed to recreational use. My concern is that we are going to give the permission of commercial use to a specific group of people. And that's the people that are sitting behind me. It's not that I have anything against them or what they are proposing to do. We are going to give the commercial use of our parts to a specific group, artisans or craftsmen. Why? Why is it that we are denying the use of our parts for commercial use to others? And I'll give you a hypothetical that I've already discussed with other council members. This is a hypothetical. I'm 23 years old. I have a wife, I have 2 children, and I'm trying to live here. I want to start a used car lot. I have everything I need, the education, I get the permits, I get everything, but I don't have any land to park my cars. So I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, can I use the parts? I want to sell my cars. How about I'm an insurance salesman, I've got everything I need, but I don't have an office. So I buy me one of those little offices on wheels and say I'd like to park my office on the parts property 1 day a week and sell my insurance. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify for the first time? Come on.
Council, my name's Billy Carter. I'm wearing a Princeville Market shirt, but I'm speaking today on behalf of my company, Kaua'i Gourmet Nuts. We attend multiple farmers markets on this island, so this is impacting us all throughout. This isn't just about Princeville. To address some of the concerns of the other community members, this bill sets out what is allowed to be sold at farmers and artisans markets. So this isn't open commercial use of our county parks. These are very restricted uses of the county parks that are coming up in this bill today. So you can't go and sell used cars on a county park. This bill restricts that use to things made in Hawaii. Again, the fisheries outside of the 6 miles, I believe that is Hawaii-made products, right? Not just Kauai County products. So that would include fisheries outside of the zone that you were concerned about. It seems like we're pretty much ready to push this forward. Everyone's been really patient. We really appreciate the council and, all the testimony that's come up, all the amendments that have been passed. As a member of the retail community on this island, represented at multiple markets, I wholeheartedly agree with this bill going forward. I think it covers everything. I think having public discourse about the park rules, which I understand is coming up after this bill is passed. The park has to come up with their own rules, the Parks Department, and there will be public discourse on that. So that's covering a lot of these bases that people are afraid of, where we're just going to open commercial use to these parks without restrictions. There's still more processes to go through in our public parks. Thank you again. I look forward to the bill being passed and all my friends and family getting back to the commerce that they deserve to have. Thanks again. Aloha.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, guys. My name is Tiari Wellborn. Speaking on behalf of myself, it really feels really sad how far this whole conversation has drifted away from farmers markets and how amazing they are for community. We have always appreciated rules as our farmers market, and I think that most farmers markets like that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Parker? She is the only exception to the rules that I allow on this.
Because she's quick, too.
We respect her 90 years of life.
Yeah, no one else try that because it's not going to work. Anyone else wishing to testify for the first time or second time? Not, we'll call the meeting back to order. Final discussion. Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to the public. I want to address a few things. I think, I would actually like to see less restriction than this bill is putting in place when it comes to particularly farmers markets, particularly food access. I think it's a human right to be able to access good local quality food, and I think we should be able to have that in places much more easily than extending these long processes and procedures to approve them. I obviously don't want to see over-commercialization of our parks, but when it comes to particularly farmers markets, I think I'm concerned that this bill is too strict, that this bill is limiting too much the people that will entrepreneur. Not everyone has the stamina and the ability to go through that rigorous permitting process outside of people like Desiree. I think it's really important that we support local food, that we support markets. I think it's absolutely critical that we figure out ways to fast track these things. I am very thankful for Brian being here today from Princeville. I am extremely thankful for his testimony, and I also really encourage him to work alongside the market organizers to expedite this process through the Princeville approval to ensure that they're not waiting any longer than they need to. This is already going to go through the 30-day notification process. They're still going to have to go through these hurdles. And I just really strongly encourage that collaboration to allow them to get back open and functioning ASAP. There are excessive rules and processes that exist, and I really encourage everyone to weigh in, particularly Carl and others that have opposition, to weigh in on that rulemaking process that's going to happen where checks and balances can additionally be added. I think that's really important. To clarify a couple of things that were said, there's 1 to 2 days that these markets are being considered, not 7 days. The markets one does not allow for everyday markets. We can't put we have to put the cart before the horse, so to speak, in this specific situation, because to initiate the rules of this process and require that the department do so, we passed this measure, which was clarified last week by our team. And I want to say one last thing. Obviously, I'm in huge support of this bill, and I really want to thank Councilmember Katashiro for helping lead this process. His experience and willingness to meet and adjust the amendments, like the 300 feet, I think made for a stronger bill and made for an additional public outreach, which I think is important. And so I really want to thank him and all of our staff who work so hard with us to make this possible. My last point is simply in relation to the testimony that was given around abusive testimony. And I want to be really clear that I have been on the other side of that table most of my life. And the passionate testimony and engagement that happened, particularly in my first experience in this chamber, was incredibly hard on those sitting in these seats, and held them to the fire incredibly well. And I think that, first of all, that's our job. The only inappropriate behavior that occurred in the previous meeting were those of us sitting on this side of the table. Because the public is never, I mean, there's a time and a place and you're out of line. Don't get me wrong, you can speak out of turn. But when your passion exudes through your testimony and you share this information that you're passionate about to us, it is our job to take it. It is our job to hear you. And sometimes it's not comfortable. Sometimes it's actually very uncomfortable. But it is absolutely our responsibility to take that passion. It is nothing compared to what we went through 12 years ago. It is nothing.
Stop it.
Yes, and I apologize. I genuinely think that some of that was really out of control, but I just want to make that for the record that I don't believe that there was swear words. I mean, there was, but it wasn't directed at any of us. And I just, I really want to encourage the public to continue to engage like that and feel like they can get up here and they can be passionate and they can pour out their heart for what they want in our community, because that's critical. And I hope that this inspires more of you to engage in this process. I hear that there's a revived care for the county council, and I hope some of you will consider putting your name on the ballot in the next election, because we need the younger generation to step forward and to engage in this process, and we need you guys to be passionate, and we need you to be here. And so I just strongly disagree with the fact that there was any abuse, and I apologize for me acting out of, I have zero poker face. I'll probably be the most transparent politician most of you might ever meet, to my fault. But I am trying to keep that decorum and that calm and that respect here, and I don't feel like that was lost. But I apologize for any way that could have seemed that way, because it was never my intention. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Calden?
Yes. In general, I've said many times how much I support certainly farmers markets and artisan markets. I'm a very active shopper in honestly more artisan markets, because I grow my own food, and I have a lot of that. But I 100% believe farmers markets need to be around, very much behind the sunshine markets. I feel more confident having had parks in the room to be able to hear a little bit of what their general strategy is. I like the idea of it being community driven. Now, none of this is written down yet, and I will say the county council is not part of that process. It'll never come before us. So I go to all these different types of events, but it's not like it comes in front of us to where we can say no or yes. We don't have that. So it's basically asking for blind faith that this process will work. I liked what he had to say. I still probably need more information to understand why they can't make these rules up before we would have passed this. It's very evident to me that this is going to pass. I go to meetings all the time, like we had the climate change adaptation action plan last night. We have community meetings all around the island all the time ahead of building rules and regulations. I believe that this could happen that way. I understand the sense of urgency for the Princeville market, and I support all of you needing to be getting it back to business. I really appreciate the executive director, or I don't know what your job is, general manager of Princeville at Hanalei Community Association coming in, because I saw that piece of like non-recreational use of a park. I think that could be considered as problematic, though having been a former retailer, I will tell you, shopping is recreational for some. It is a passionate recreation for many. So I have the stability in my life because of that recreational interest for shopping. So I will definitely acknowledge that. But if somebody wanted to be a stipulator and you look at what are definitions, that could be a problem. The other thing, when I'm talking to different businesses in the community, we our real property tax has just been powerfully hard, particularly on the North Shore, right? Just powerfully hard. And so the amount that's going on these commercial use facilities, commercial properties, shopping centers, is incredible. They have big increases. I talked to one shopping center, between that and the increase of insurance, it literally brought their common area maintenance fees up to equal with the rent. Common area maintenance fees is usually just a small little piece. And so this particular individual, I don't want to put his name out, but it's a family from here, and their collective taxes, I looked them up, were over $600,000 for their businesses. And, in a park like any of these commercial use facilities, almost all of them, they have the minimum tax, which is $150. So they're not having to put that burden on to their tenants. Like in this particular case that I'm giving as an example, 3 of their businesses had to close when they had to raise that common area maintenance fee. It worked out to about $4,000-ish, or more for each shop per month. And so 3 of these businesses were all mom and pop, family-owned artisan businesses. They all went out of business when the tax went up and the insurance went up. They closed their shop. So that store is having a hard time. They have beautiful work. 2 of them were on my surf team when they were kids. I've known these people. They could be like any of you. And they have worked so hard to claw their way up the hill. So when I look at their tax on that building this year, $52,000. If the park that you're in paid a commercial tax, it would be $10,500. Hopefully your park is paying more for your market than if the Prince Philip Honolulu Community Association might have to have a higher tax. But also when you look at what, 5 acres are, actually I can't remember the acreage, but 7 acres, it probably really could be brought up to a higher rate. And so something that we see happen when you think, it won't happen. Well, we placed a cell tower on 1,000-acre cattle ranch. They lose their dedicated ag and it shifts to industrial. Those are kind of things that come before us. It can be crazy what happens with taxes. And then when I look at this $10,000 per day per violation, I just realized when you have people who are working against you, boy, you better make sure you never bring in a wrong mango. You better make sure there's never any garlic in there. There better be hang tags that are looked at, or actually I tried to fight for your hang tags. I think I got that right. And I'm wearing another one. Where from? Princeville Market. So if you have a problem and this board is getting a $10,000 a day notification, it terrifies people that aren't used to getting it. And so maybe they never end up having to pay for that, but it's unsettling. So it's a lot for them to think about. So I'm bringing this up because what I worry about is in trying to protect you, and I want to protect you. I want to protect you. And there was criticism here that I didn't really say much when I'm getting these complaints because I didn't want to leverage, I didn't want to facilitate complaints against you because I appreciate what you're doing. But when people want to leverage those complaints, it won't be hard. Somehow this shined the light on all the challenges that we've had in terms of managing our parks. So it could be that we do all of this really for these people in this room right here who've been coming in and talking to us, and you can't even end up having your park, so we do all of this, and we basically race through the finish line. Councilmember Kaua'i always used to say, ready, fire, aim, with bills that he didn't think was prepared. I don't think this bill is prepared for the public parks. I'm all right with it for the private parks. That's why I tried so hard to separate out the two, because I would have had a very easy time. And with the public parks, I think it could have a lot of problems. So I just want you guys to be aware of what you're facing. I'm sure this is going to pass today. When it passes, I sure do hope you get to open, so that when all the rest of this happens, possibly not fast enough, not correctly enough, that we don't have too much problems. And if you don't get to go back to your place, please participate in the rules. Please go be involved in the peddlers and concessionaires, because that's really, you will be able to maybe move into another place.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kaua'i?
Yeah, I just want to say mahalo nui loa. Thank you so much to the bill's introducers, Councilmember Holland and Councilmember Kaneshiro, to Parks and Rec and to Planning, and especially to everyone from the public, from our community, who came meeting after meeting to engage in our process and help us get to the best bill. And I'm happy to support that bill today. And I wish best wishes to all the farmers, artisans, crafters, and other vendors out there for much success. And sorry that you had to go through the struggle the last few months. Thank you, Chair.
That's it?
That's it.
Mr. Kaneshiro?
Oh, okay. Well, I can't say this process was short, I just want to say I support farmers and I support local businesses. Farmers markets and artisan markets are a good thing. The Princeville market is a great thing. It was great for the community. It was great for the vendors. It was great for the farmers. The Grow Farm Market, it's a great thing. They should have the ability to do it, and I don't think they should have to go through a use permit process to get it. That being said, the process we have in place with this bill does have checks and balances. We've heard from the public. We heard from Carl. We added this 300-foot thing, which they would have had to do if they were going through a use permit. Does it add cost and time to the applicants? It does. But again, we're trying to listen to what the public needs. We're trying to be cognizant of the neighbors, and we're trying to make something that's going to be a win-win for everybody. And that's what we've done in this bill. In addition to allowing farmers markets and artisans markets on private property, we've also provided the opportunity to do it on county parks, which we've had it on county parks. We had a farmers market at Kaua'i Ballpark. We had a farmers market right out here in front of our building. It's nothing scary. People have called, are you guys going to do it at Poipu Beach? Why would we take the process and do it at Poipu Beach? At the end of the day, it's a county process. The county needs to go through the entire process. We would catch so much cracks trying to do a farmer's market at Poipu Beach. No one can even go to the beach now to use the beach without fighting for parking. So again, the county is going to pick a park that is a win-win for both. They're going to pick up a park that is a win-win for the county and a win-win for the community. Why are they going to go through a process and force a farmer's market or artisan market at a beach park that they're going to get all this opposition for, when they have to spend, all this time and cost to just get it permitted? Again, we have the process in place. And this process won't even start for at least another year for the county side, because the county needs to make their rules and regulations on farmers markets and artisans markets. Without those rules and regulations, nothing will happen on county parks. That's the trigger. They got to finish those rules and regulations. That's going to take about at least a year, I would say, probably. Once they do their admin rules, the county does their admin rules, then the county is going to have to identify suitable locations. Where do we think would be a good place to have farmers markets and artisans markets? I don't think it's an overcrowded beach park that everyone's trying to enjoy. It's going to be an underutilized park that has the parking, that won't affect the community, that won't affect our surrounding neighbors. In addition, they're going to have to send out the notifications, same as everyone else, to people within 300 feet. They're going to have to get a Class 1 zoning permit, same as everyone else. And then the county is going to have to go and follow their peddlers and concessionaires rules and go out and do a request for proposal. So it's not a fast process. It's not an easy process. We're not going to look like Mexico or whatever we've been said, with just peddlers and concessionaires all over our parks. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. This is going to be a very long process, and again, it's going to take the county's effort to even get one at a park, which may take forever. This bill also allows us to do event concessions at our regular parks, like Vedina Stadium, which I believe we should have had a long time ago. We just never realized it. So, this bill is not ill thought of. It's not ill conceived. It's not a mixed match of stuff. This bill helps to resolve a whole bunch of situations, and at the end of the day, do something good. It's to allow farmers and artisans to be able to do their markets on a private community's facility. You know, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I've heard a lot about safeguards. There's so many safeguards in this. And so, I mean, I just want to see this bill passed already, and let's move past it. I mean, at the end of the day, we really did make a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, the farmers market was operating great. Grove Farm Farmers Market is operating great. You know, let's just move forward. So that's all I have to say.
Yes, without having to repeat everything, I mean, you guys know that the bottom line for me, and having gone through numerous discussions, whether it be for parks, whether it be for farmers markets, use of parks for recreational facilities and recreational use, and of course the farmers market use, and all of it, it's all about balance. It's all about working it through. It's all about sharing the information and finding and being available and making it available for our entire community. It's not one over the other. And I think that's the biggest thing that came to the table for all of us. We've gone through numerous discussions. We've been out there with you folks. We've reached out in so many different ways. But my point is that everything is very important for our island. It's how we manage it and balance it out to offer the opportunities. It was said earlier, 7 days that we're going to have a farmer. No, it's Tuesday or Wednesdays, or Tuesday, Wednesdays, or 2:30 to 5:30, or whatever the time was. There's a place for all. It's how you manage it. I think there's good discussion, and I appreciate what is brought onto the table by Councilmember Kaneshiro and Holland and all of our discussion here. But for me, knowing that you folks have all come out with lengthy discussion on this entire area of discussion, should I say, but the entire island. It's not only here in this area, it's all. So we should take it one step at a time, have a good solid base, have good information that we can share, that everybody can reap the benefits, whether it be Sunshine Market, Farmers Market, recreational use, all of it. And I think that's the important piece that needs to be laid out here on the table. So I appreciate all the discussion, and I look forward to checking it out sooner than later. Aloha.
I have 5 points that I want to go over. The first is mahalo to the introducers, mahalo to our community for showing up and being part of this entire process. Mahalo to the Planning Commission for hearing these concerns and working through these. And then mahalo to all the opposition that came and shared you guys' point of views to help craft this bill. You know, in this first point, I always think about where we are in time, and can you just imagine that in a similar fashion, in the same breath, there's parts of our U.S. government that don't believe in this process, and it's not even listening to us. And so I just sit here and I feel so blessed that we have an engaging community that's willing to have discourse and allow us to have a civilized process, and we're not going backwards. So thank you guys for all participating in what we believe in democracy is. And second point is markets are as old as civilization. I mean, thousands of years. So it baffles me that this is, to me, and in agreement with some of the remarks here, it's a housekeeping bill. This should have been like done. I'm so confused of why this took so long, because this is as old as time. Literally, like as old as language, as old as communities gathering thousands of years ago. So I feel like I'm biased on one side of this coin because it's a very straightforward process, and therefore, in this perspective, I had to sit back and try to get out of that perspective and hear discourse, because as our job here is to make it better. Just because it's as old as time doesn't mean it can't. So I appreciate all the discourse, the amendments that happen, and allow people to engage. And so the months that we spent here, while it affected your businesses, your livelihoods, your everything that you can imagine, just imagine if you weren't here, if you're somewhere else where you could just be erased. And so I understand why the passion was in this room, because there's both aspects that needed to be feel good at the end of the day, even though it's uncomfortable to have this type of discourse. Because if we have this discourse, then we're going to lose our community. And so I am so proud of this community. And my fourth and last point is I have, I'm going to just lock back into my bias. Before becoming a council member, I spent a lot more time organizing. And I can sympathize with all of our small businesses here, and especially as an organizer, even when it was not legal yet. A lot of community members was afraid that losing parking stalls on Rice Street, and you won't be able to support the existing businesses might lose money because we're bringing in smaller markets. The fear of people selling things that shouldn't be sold, that is not Kaua'i made. The fear right now. And probably part of the reason why they're not here. They think it's normal to have markets. When Hurricane Iniki came through, building codes weren't what the building codes is now.
On as well. I love farmers markets. I love it. I really haven't participated in too many artisan markets, as you guys can probably tell. Right out front here. It was wonderful. It was wonderful for our staff. It was wonderful for me. And, you know, doggone it, it was illegal. So, but every election year, everybody running for office says, we got to support ag. We got to support our farmers. We got to support our ranchers. No one complains about by you two that provided for the community input. And again, you know, I know Mr. Hart talked about the bill being named Commercial Use and Parks Facilities. Well, that, you know, our code is made up of so many chapters. And the chapter that applies to this, what we're trying to do, is the chapter that says a chapter relating to commercial use and park activities. But that's just a chapter title. I mean, can you imagine having that discussion? If that was the bill, we wouldn't be here today. It would have died on first reading. If it was a bill allowing used car sales on county parks, it would have died. It would never made it to a public hearing. So, you know, let's just say it as it is. The other thing that was said was we are doing this for a specific. We have an opportunity. So yeah, no, this was not built. In fact, I was more concerned about the county facilities, as you talked about. I was more concerned about our baseball parks and our stadiums that are selling concessions illegally. That's what I was more concerned about. Princeville Market was you're an entity. There's just so much more this bill encompasses that I was more concerned about. No offense. You guys were one of many. But my bigger concern of passing this, because my initial, and I shared this with Ms. Kaua'i, was I was going to support her amendment about removing a county and city. Why we got to do this? Until I found out that because we are in violation. So we got to have this passed. So we needed the bill. Community input is vital because, to me, community input should dictate the community that is impacted now. I shouldn't be going over to Lucy Wright Park and saying, I live in a Wailo house lots and I don't want to market here. It's going to cause too much traffic. You know, that community should dictate what they want. Wailo House Lots Park, I live in a house lots along with Lonnie. It's not that I want to see a farmer's market there every day, but I would love to see a farmer's market there once a week. You know, where we can just go down the street. There's a family that bought a couple of hens for their kids as pets and project, live right down there by the fork. And they bought 2, and then it ended up getting 3, and then 4, and then 6, and then 12, and now they got so many eggs. So they go out on the side. I mean, is it legal? Probably. I mean, probably not. But they set up a little table. The little girl is there selling her eggs. And we stop there, we buy the eggs. It's fresh eggs, brown. Still get the blood spot inside. Now, should we go put the mom in jail for doing that? No, because it's farming, it's ranching, it's what is acceptable in the rural community that we live. So am I going to call planning and say, bro, you better go check that? That young girl is selling eggs on the side of the road. No, go check if she has a concessionaire's permit. Absolutely not. But if 30 vendors showed up at the House Lots Park selling whatever they want, then yes, it would be an issue for me. So I think the community determines what is acceptable in that community, and that community should decide, no one else. So again, I appreciate you guys' endurance. This has been a long one, and it's been a while since we filled up this chamber's so many hearings in a row, which that says a lot. So thank you all, and again, even to those that are not happy right now, it's just a balance that we gotta put together and think of what's best for our communities, and it's not always easy, but thank you very much. Okay, with that, the motion is to approve. Roll call.
Councilmember Bolasan?
Aye.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
No.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Kaneshiro?
Aye.
Today's agenda items, we are adjourned. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for your patience, first of all. We had hoped to do this by 11:30. I was off by 40 minutes, but that's okay. We are honored to be here today to recognize Kauai Historical Society's 111th anniversary. That's a long time. I think the county building, and I'm sure someone will come up and explain, but I think we're 2 days or 4 days. Well, I'll let them explain. But yeah, so this building here was dedicated shortly before the Historical Society was organized. So it's kind of a dual anniversary. But we only have the certificate for the Historical Society. I'm going to read it right now. The Kauai County Council hereby recognizes and congratulates the Kauai Historical Society for its 111th anniversary on May 14th, 2025. The Kauai Historical Society's mission is to collect, preserve, and disseminate the oral, written, and pictorial history of Kauai County and to educate ourselves and the public about the history and different cultures of Kauai and Niihau. The Kauai Historical Society was founded on May 7, 1914 by a small group of people dedicated to the preservation of Kauai County history. The first meeting was called by Reverend J.M. Lidgate and was held at the Lihue Union Church, where regular meetings were held quarterly and annual meetings held in May, which included the presentations of papers or programs on topics of Kauai's history. From 1960 to 61 and 1963 to 68, they were inactive years, but Kauai Historical Society reactivated in 1969 with incorporation on November 25th, 1969, and held monthly meetings at the Lihue Public Library where historical collections were housed. In 1971, the Kauai Historical Society entered into agreement with the Kauai Library and Museum Association to house books, records, and papers in their facilities. By 1986, the Kauai Historical Society's historical collection grew, which resulted in the need for expansion and relocation to the former Hawaiian Telephone Building in Hanalei. On May 15, 1996, the Kauai Historical Society entered a 30-year lease with the County of Kauai to house the historical collections of the Historic County Building in Suites 101 and 102, which was formerly occupied by the mayor and staff. The Kauai County Council congratulates the Kauai Historical Society for its 111th anniversary and wishes. We have 3 seats up there. It was just amazing. So I just had to share that story because I'm almost embarrassed to say I really didn't understand what you had in that small little area you have. So.
Years before the timeline of my existence would be clocked at 111 years, and the odds, are not really in the favor for most of us to get to 111 years individually, and see such a span of time. That's one of the reasons that an organization like the Kauai Historical Society exists. It's the preservation of experiences and a single human life. But together, and this intergenerational conversation that we all have with the past and the future, we get to be stewards of history. I've gotten to a bit of information and storytelling about.
For all the hard work. I know that we are so thankful to be downstairs in this wonderful historic building with former Mayor Kunimura's original glory, I guess is how some of the notes say. But they worked hard getting the county building refurbished, and so we are just happy to be a part of this historic building and to celebrate. We came to see this beautiful historic building.
The building was formally opened on May 9th of 1914, just 2 days after the founding of the Kauai Historical Society. It was added to the National and State Registers of Historic Places in 1981, along with the Annex and the Lihue Courthouse and the surrounding grounds as the Lihue Civic Center Historic District. As one of the few historic listings on Kauai to be on the registers, the site is deemed worthy of protection and preservation and its historical accuracy. And while Mayor Kunimura helped to raise the necessary funds, those funds were processed. The Restoration Committee started researching the original design of the building. And they discovered that the architect was Clinton Ripley and he had designed a very efficient building with large, simple rooms, high ceilings, and
Thank you. Before I open it up, I just wanted, if you could take this opportunity
to do that. So we are keepers of many things. We have something called the Kaua'i papers, which are a collection of hundreds of stories that were collected from 1914 forward, and they're amazing stories that you would, probably spend several hours in our library reading about. We also have what is called the Kaua'i hula, and it is a file that was given to the Kauai Historical Society in the 1930s by Tutu Mary Kavena Pukui. She, along with a woman, her name was Ke'ahi Luahine. Ke'ahi was from an area called Wahiawa, which is over where Kauai coffee is, I believe, in that area. And Ke'ahi Luahine taught Tutu Kavena Pukui. If all of you don't know, she was the person that translated the Hawaiian dictionary. She worked for the Bishop Museum. We are so in gratitude to her for our language that today lives. But Pukui and Ke'ahi Luahine came to Kauai and did a presentation for the Kauai Historical Society. As a hula practitioner, these are how our hula today live. All of the hula that came from Ke'ahi Luahine was passed through her generations of hula, her hula line, today are done by hula practitioners all over the world and in Koloa. And so these things all happened in the 1930s and 40s, and but today we benefit from them because it helped them restore such an ancient place. Who I think all of you
also have high school yearbooks.
Oh yes, we have a library. We have to start yearbook.
Yeah, it was like they're all.
Historicalsociety.org, and check out the research page, or if you just have a question, send us an email or whatever we can help with, because everything is for the people of Kauai. And Ni'ihau, and preserving our history. So likewise, if you have anything that you want to share with us, for us to put into our archives, we would love to talk to you and see if we can do that. I want to also acknowledge Atimaria Kusaka.
We all have to talk, right? First of all, I want to acknowledge the generosity of this council and your chair, Mel, because the challenge for the Historical Society has been site location. And it was because the second time that the Historical Society was really challenged was at COVID, when nobody came to volunteer. The board all resigned. Myself included, I had resigned earlier to move over to the museum, which is where I still am. But due to the generosity and volunteerism of Pam and her friends, there are a few people that help, that have never given up, it's kept open. And they really grandchildren, that we keep the history for our island. Mahalo for being so generous to Kaua'i and the council. You're an angel. Thank you so much.
We have to thank our years of volunteerism, because
why do we have so many floods on Kaua'i from Mauka? Because nobody is taking care of the irrigation ditches anymore. Plantation did that all the time. They open, close, open. And it saved so much property. And we have all the maps downstairs. The county should be looking at those maps, because it would give them direction of where it might be plugged up. We have to open so the water can pass. That and open the river mouth. That's my mantra. Open the river mouth.
I hope Public Works is watching.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank
Go
you.
to lunch. We have cake.
Okay, well, I want to say, I'm gonna promote whoever's watching for donations and to the county to increase the lease, right? Did you get a second 30 years?
We're working on.
Okay, so I'm 100% behind the second 30 years because when I first got this job, able to be doing a good job. So like to me, the idea of you moving into a different building, I think, because, right here are records. And so there's so many good records.
All of our volunteers and board members, supporters, donors. The feat that you are on is one that oftentimes is forgotten. I think it's not the first thing you think of in your normal day for most people, right? Think about how we become who we are and how we do things and how we make decisions and take care of each other. It's all knowledge. It's all relationships. And they do not exist that relationship. And you are all a piece in all of our hearts for past, for now, and for the future. Oftentimes we think about historic care for now, and on behalf of myself, and most importantly on behalf of I'll be sure to volunteer my son to come work with you guys. If mommy's listening, I just volunteered her son again. I'm sorry. But we'll come and help preserve, protect, care for our knowledge, our relationship. Figures in there, and if there isn't a dedicated group of individuals who's willing to protect and promote it, we can lose who we are very fast. And so thank you for being the keepers of time, of knowledge. And
I'm also so proud that our county...
and then Mayor, of course. And Mayor Kunimura, when I first started in the county back in 1985, he was mayor right here. And so there's a lot of history there. But my point is that as they get older, and a lot of our grandkids or children. But my point is that totally supportive, and mahalo for all the work that you folks do. Your time is valuable. There's no money involved. It's looking at that and whatever we can do to kind of continue to support. But knowing that the presence here, not only for Kauai, but just for sharing the information before. And you get your Portuguese, your Filipino, your Japanese, everybody worked together back then. And
111 years ago. But, to be able to have survived this long and, I really enjoy the pictures that you guys have. I see Lee post a lot of the old pictures. And I just love, just going around the room and looking at the old pictures and being like, oh, this picture is taken. Look at how much it's changed. It's an incredible resource to have. And I really like the idea of getting more oral history from people alive now, because it's not only looking at like what do we have from 1900s or whatever. It's preserving the history today is preserving the history for the future generations. So and there's been a lot of changes that have happened in the last 20 years, and I just really appreciate it. You do have a good resource over there. Ada, she's pretty good at interviews. She did a whole bunch of interviews for Koloa Plantation Days, recording everybody, asking the right questions. But yeah, we're lucky to do that oral thing. We're lucky for the oral interviews we did for Koloa Plantation Days, because I'd say a huge majority of the people we interviewed have all passed away already. And if we didn't take that opportunity, it would have been lost forever. So yeah, I support you guys in that venture. And just, yeah, again, you guys are such a great resource to have, to look at the old pictures, the old maps, whatever it is. It's incredible. And, and just thinking about like this county building and the Kauai Museum, those are buildings that were here when nothing else was around. You look at the old pictures, it's amazing to think like how the forethought in creating these type of buildings that are still here, still usable, we're still using them. I mean, I don't think I could create a building today that someone would be using 110 years from now. You know, they'll be like, what was he thinking at that time? And it's just amazing, and I just appreciate you guys and all your hard work to keep and preserve what we have.
Yes, thank you so much. I don't want to take too much more time. So much great things were just said. But I really do appreciate, Auntie Pam, known you for so long, and appreciate so much all that you do and this role that you play, and all of you, like was echoed. It's an incredible honor to sit in this seat and to sit in this building and to come to work here, and the history that has happened here in this building and the people that have built our island into what it is. It's all, reflective here, and I think about it every time I show up, and I'm super humbled to be in this space, in one of these 7 seats, reflecting that in everyday work that we do. And I really I love what you guys provide. I also love the social media posts. When you guys do share those things online, I love the discussions that happen around where we've come from, where we're going. I think for me, a couple of things that have been really impactful since moving home 12 years ago, learning so much more, coming home and learning about our history, and diving into the Hanapepe massacre 10 years ago and being on that research committee that helped. I'm super passionate about history and ancestry particularly, and we got to work with Auntie Catherine Lowe to piece together the other 8 names of those victims that died and be able to connect them to their descendants. And I think that's so incredible. And more recently, in the last few years, diving into the incredible history that we have in Wailua, and the Coco Palms Hotel, and all of that layers of history going back many generations, and all of that. And, hearing like Ms. Gaslander being so smart to keep our records elevated and all of that. And in so many of the conversations, I had heard about incredible ideas for a museum at that site as well, to serve and rebuild those original cottages for the use of historical stuff, and just so many things that I learned about Wailua. Being born and raised on the east side of Kauai my whole life, I just have been so appreciative for the records that you guys hold and the knowledge that you all keep, and echo a lot of what my colleagues have said about the importance of not only continuing that, but those vocal recordings and that historical documentation is just priceless, especially for those of us that make decisions about where we go in the future. So just really echoing that mahalo, and really thankful for you guys and all you do. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I think, these guys have said it all. I appreciate you all and what you do down there. I just really wanted to use this opportunity to congratulate you all, but to let the public know of this resource, to have them take advantage of what's there. I think a lot of people are like me. You kind of know, you think you know it. Boy, one of the best storytellers on the planet, Pam's husband. And when we were talking about the oral history and getting these people to come in and do recordings of stories, I was thinking, man, if we can get that recorded and saved forever, way after we're gone, kids are going to be listening to Uncle Chucky share these stories, and it's going to be so valuable. So we really got to be here helping you all get that done, because I think it's so vital. So thank you all.
Thank you. And likewise, all of you, everybody here, you don't have to be a council person, but, we archive people's information. And so one of the files that we have is with Mayor Brian Baptiste. And I was telling his son, Brandon, I see your dad's file every morning when I come into work. I said, and there he is right there. And all of Brian's information that we've kept for him. And he said, really? I said, yeah, it'll be there past me and him. And yeah, so it's good. Our kids and our families need to know that they can come and